Chapter 327, Revenge Game. Chapter 327, Revenge Game. Elite Coder. It was the same jade Zhuo Fan gave him when the man answered Huangpu Qingtian's challenge. It had a simple sentence, one that touched his heart. It was something his master had Zhuo Fan give to him: if you find your life in Peking Hall difficult, come with Steward Zhuo to find me. He was certain from the sole trace on the jade slip that it was without a doubt his master's. The familiar feeling was so strong, he barely held back his tears. His master lived in the Luo clan. And by the sound of it, quite well. He recalled what Zhuo Fan told him at the time, that he'd take him to see his master in hell. It was a clear proof of acceptance. From that instant, this youth who hated Zhuo Fan's guts switched sides at the drop of the hat. He became Zhuo Fan's spy, feeding him information in secret. Yan Fu's eyes snapped to his clansmen and he shouted, "Yan Bangyi, listen up. From this very moment, I and Peking Hall are through. I belong to the Luo clan. A failure like you has no right to judge me." Yan Bangyi was a keg set to blow, evident from his red face. His chest heaved yet he couldn't find a word of reply. This son of a bitch finds himself some backing and thinks he can defy me? No matter how big a nerve he had earlier, he still wouldn't curse back. But now, Zhuo Fan was laughing it up at their expense. He praised Yan Fu, "Well said. This is the kind of medal all youths of the Luo clan should have. These 4 may be in 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, but to me, they aren't worth a goddamn thing." Zhuo Fan's words were lofty and powerful, looking down on all creation. Yan Fu was excited. Chest forward, head bobbing, the pride on his face unmistakable. He took on the same attitude he had when traveling with vicious Peking. Inside he sighed. Following Zhuo Fan is truly out of this world, freedom and bliss. All the hatred and bitterness festering in his heart during these years magically went away. No wonder my master got up and dumped Peking Hall. His attitude sent a shiver down their spine. Scour the world and one would find the Luo clan's Zhuo Fan the only one to ever look at the 7 houses with such loathing. By the looks of it, this clan was growing in power, its future only bright. People began seeing the Luo clan in a different light. But the Luo clan's people had no time to mind others' opinion of them, looking at the national elemental stone in worry. Zhuo Fan was dominating the show, but seeing how wounded he was. Luo Yunchang couldn't fight back the pain in her heart seeing the bloody one-armed Zhuo Fan. Outsiders got the wrong idea seeing the Luo clan so worried. They thought worry came from Zhuo Fan possibly letting emotions override his judgment and that he might do something he would regret. In every esoteric debate that had been held in the past 1,000 years, many people died while the 7 houses held each other in professional courtesy, thus coming out unharmed each time. This time was no exception. They were split into factions, with heavy casualties on both sides, yet even in the most disastrous esoteric debate in history all those that died were vassals. None from the 7 houses fell, not one from 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. This seemed to be the house's bottom line. However, if Zhuo Fan were to get impulsive and kill these 4, it would mark the start of the house war. This will make the Luo clan fodder in this war. And nobody from the Luo clan wanted to see that happen. But they were clearly overthinking things. They were blissfully unaware that the Luo clan was loyal to Zhuo Fan to a fault, even if fewer in numbers. They would accept any decision Zhuo Fan made, even bringing doom to the Luo clan. Of course, with Zhuo Fan's cunning mind there was no way he'd let that happen. So Luo clan's people held unshakable trust in Zhuo Fan's every action. Zhuo Fan's decision was Luo clan's decision. What are you gawking at? He's on his deathbed. Attack together and he will die. Huangpu Qingtian shouted at the rest. The 4 of them took the brimming sacred pill and couldn't control themselves, but their vassals hadn't and could still pose a threat to Zhuo Fan. It was the perfect moment to strike, at his most vulnerable. Once he got better, all would be done for. Yu Yushan noticed this as well and shouted along with his allies. They didn't get to move as the dozen bone-tempering cultivators' eyes went blank and they collapsed. Zhuo Fan snickered, I may be wounded, but did you forget? My soul is in the radiant stage. The four gasped. They should have known that a sleeping tiger was still a tiger. Since when could ants take the soaring demonic dragon's life? The four were wrecked with despair. Huangpu Qingtian threatened, Zhuo Fan, think this through. Killing us will start a war with our houses and the vassal clans. Are you willing to take that chance? Not even the emperor can save you then. War? Yan Fu knew the Luo clan was under the imperial family and Dugu Zhantian's protection, and since he had yet to be filled into the Luo clan's true power, he began to worry. Did I enter the Luo clan only to die? Zhuo Fan grinned, quite true. Killing you will start a war. How scary. But I am never one to write off a revenge. What to do, what to do? Zhuo Fan put on a hypocritical thinking posture. Huangpu Qingtian's group was even more unnerved by his attitude. They hoped the punk would look at the big picture and get scared of what he saw, sparing them in the meantime. It went double for Huangpu Qingtian. Providence had him king and all that. His life was invaluable. How could he just die? I have it. Zhuo Fan snapped his fingers, earning a jerk from his victims, since I have to get revenge but you are nonetheless valuable and oughtn't be killed, I can only let heaven decide your fate. The four were shocked. But Zhuo Fan's hand made a sign and the four could move. Though none of them could use their yuan qi. Their cultivation was sealed. Huangpu Qingtian groaned as a thumb-sized hole appeared on his chest. The pain almost made him black out as he looked down. He was unbeatable all his life, never even suffering a heavy wound. But this sudden hole exploding from within was heartrending. Bam! 3 more groans and his allies shared his pain. Zhuo Fan, what are you going to do? Huangpu Qingtian gnashed his teeth, if you plan on killing us, stop playing and release us from this torment. Release you? Ha ha ha, did you release Ninger? Zhuo Fan's smile was that of anger, relax, I said that your fate is in heaven's hand and will give you guys a chance. I am a man of my word. The holes in your chest represent your number. He gestured at the four. The four found Huangpu Qingtian having 1 hole so he ought to be 1. Yu Yushan had 2, Yan Bangyi had 3 and Lin Xianfeng had 4. They looked at each other bewildered. Zhuo Fan smiled, we will play a game, the Great Escape. I will give you guys 3 days to find the keys and leave this place. Getting back to Dragon Cloud City, your lives will be spared. But if I find you before you leave, he, terribly sorry but that's Providence. Now you can't blame me for being short-sighted and not giving you a way out. Zhuo Fan's hand flashed and the keys to 3 exits appeared. He tossed them into the sky and they were soon spread all over Beast King Mountain. Yan Fu, make a sealed box for me holding 4 lots. 3 days later I will be drawing 1, my target. As for the rest of you lucky fellows, you'd be spared, for a while. Since I am a bastion of fairness, I will release a signal before my hunt. Your lives are now in heaven's hands. With a wicked grin, Zhuo Fan waved them off, come on, off you go. But remember, you better hope I don't find you. The 4 exchanged a glance and bolted in 4 directions. They knew Zhuo Fan was playing with them but they had no choice in the matter. All they could do was fight. Yan Fu gasped and turned to Zhuo Fan, Steward Zhuo, are you killing them or letting them go? Why go through all this trouble just to kill them? And if you wanted to let them go? Humph, how could I ever let them off? Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted and his mood became deadly. Yan Fu, do you fear death? Yes. Yan Fu nodded after a pause. Zhuo Fan shook his head, no, you do not fear death, but dying. Ninger was a pure-hearted girl. Although she had a smile upon her face at death, I know it was for our sakes. She knew she was going to die and must have felt a terrible dread. This fear tortured her for 3 days. Zhuo Fan clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot as he spat, "So I will make those sons of bitches know the true meaning of fear every waking moment until they'd wish for death." Yan Fu shuddered and nodded. Zhuo Fan never cared about some big picture, nor intended to let them off. He wanted them to suffer more than Xuaningxiang did. Yan Fu now understood why he did it and went into the forest to carve a box out of a tree. Zhuo Fan stayed behind, closed his eyes and resumed healing. Time passed on and the 3rd day was soon up. At the dawn of the 4th, Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed open, out for blood. By his side, Yan Fu presented the box obscuring its content. This was the item that would decide the 4's fate. The hunt was on. Chapter 328, Go on Run, One-Legged Dragon. Chapter 328, Go on Run, One-Legged Dragon. Elite Coder. Which one? I wonder who's the lucky bastard that gets to go first. The suspense is killing me. Sneering, Zhuo Fan snapped his fingers and a wood piece floated out of the box. A tiny character was etched on it. 4. Oh, it's 4. Zhuo Fan's face split into a wide and very malicious grin. Then he asked, "Remind me again, who was number 4? Yan Fu spoke with reverence, "Steward Zhuo, number 4 is Forest Fleeting Dragon, Lin Xianfeng." "Oh, it's that gimp dragon. What rotten luck. Among 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, I seem to recall having already taken my ire on him twice so far. Now Providence has spoken and has placed him first in my path. Ha ha ha. I can't help but wonder, has his crimes earned him such ill fate or is he just so down on his luck, so cursed, to suffer hell first?" Laughing, Zhuo Fan said, "Whatever, in his case, he truly must be ill-fated, ha ha ha." Zhuo Fan pointed at the sky. A flare shot up and exploded into 4 fireworks bathing the Beast King Mountain in red. The frantic Huangpu Qingtian, scurrying in the forest, looked up at the sound, for fireworks means number 4. Lin Xianfeng is such an unlucky dog. Huangpu Qingtian shook his head, rejoicing inside. Zhuo Fan was really playing by the rules and wasn't targeting him specifically. Or more likely than not, he'd be after him the first chance he got. With Lin Xianfeng playing the first victim, it bought him precious time to find the keys. Tightening the red crystal in his hand, Huangpu Qingtian took a deep breath and sped up in the search for its pair. He needed yin and yang keys to be home free. He had to work even faster now. Who knew how fast Lin Xianfeng would fall and who'd be the next poor schmuck to follow? On the off chance it was him, that would mean death. Although he breathed easier for a moment, the anxiety only mounted. Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan noticed the flare with their nerves stretched taut. This meant Zhuo Fan's death game had started. But they relaxed soon after, seeing Zhuo Fan going after Lin Xianfeng. Their safety was assured, for now. Though they also knew that once Lin Xianfeng fell, Zhuo Fan would go after them. And with their cultivation sealed up, Zhuo Fan would pick them like ants. And so, their speed mounted, as did their will to live. The pressure had grown on the 3 who lucked out, but the last one was showing quite a different reaction. "Hell yeah. I got the wood exit keys. My luck is off the hook." In a particularly glum and dark corner of the forest, Lin Xianfeng clenched the 2 green crystals and danced in joy. Even with a number of close to 30,000 people wandering Beast King Mountain's forest for a month now, the wood exit keys were never found. And here he was catching a lucky break. This luck is godlike. All he had to do was get to the wood exit and he'd be back in the safety of Dragon Cloud City. This would make his survival, by Zhuo Fan's game rules, Providence. Zhuo Fan couldn't touch him. Zhuo Fan may be a very sore loser, but every elder in Dragon Cloud City, along with Dugu Zhantian and Fang Qiubai keeping the peace, would make sure to prevent any foul play. He would be safe. Filling his lungs with air, Lin Xianfeng felt the urge to bow before the mighty power of heaven, to offer his gratitude for actually caring, for once, about his fate. All previous resentments were wiped clean as his luck had finally turned. He was looking at the dawning sky with a smile on his face when a sudden flare exploded into 4 fireworks. The crimson sky reflected perfectly on his equally red face. The heavens are giving me their blessing, ha ha ha. Lin Xianfeng was still trapped in his fantasy, giggling away. But then his smile froze. How can old heaven get up and burst for no rhyme or reason? That's man-made. With the 4 having their cultivation sealed, it only left Zhuo Fan. Is that the signal starting his death game? The sky had 4 fireworks. Doesn't that paint a target on #4? Lin Xuanfeng's face twitched, looking rigidly at his chest and the holes in it. There they were, in all their bloody glory, 4 holes bored into him precisely 3 days ago. Fuck, I'm that number 4. The corners of Lin Xuanfeng's mouth sank and tears threatened to burst out of his eyes. He had a good thing going here, this close to renewing his lease on life. But Providence had a different plan in mind, sending Zhuo Fan on a manhunt for the first target, him. He plunged from the glorious halls of paradise, into the infernal abyss. My luck has turned, worse than ever. Old heaven, could you please not tease me? Lin Xuanfeng's heart shuddered, his eyes hot from tears, feeling victimized. Not forgetting the fact that he wasn't even included in the plan to kill the lass. That was all Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan's doing, prodded by Huangpu Qingtian from behind. He should be going after those 3 for revenge. Why? Why is it that the first one that monster is hunting is me? It's so unfair. Lin Xianfeng wailed, asking the heavens with his pitiful eyes, what do I do now? At this very moment, he felt like the most miserable and wretched man in this whole wide world. Never mind the leg Zhuo Fan snapped off of him, or the hand Zhuo Fan disintegrated. Zhuo Fan was now hot on his heels for revenge. Yet he, the only one innocent in this whole matter, was the first target. Just what magnitude of bad luck was this? Lin Xuanfeng's eyes opened the floodgates. However, he didn't have time to wallow in self-pity. With 2 keys in hand, all he had to do was get to the wood exit and he'd be the winner. Lin Xianfeng broke into a mad dash, short of 1 leg, granted, but not slower than in his prime. His title, Forest Fleeting Dragon, was granted for his amazing speed after all. But with a flash of golden light, there came Zhuo Fan popping not 100 yards from the man. Lin Xianfeng, you saw the flare I assume. Indeed, you're my first victim. Be good and stand still, would you? Isn't it too soon? How did he find me so fast? Lin Xianfeng whipped his head back and sure enough, Zhuo Fan had a positively killing smile. Bro, can't you cut me some slack? Huangpu Qingtian planned on killing the girl. And the other 2 executed it. I was in the dark when it happened. If you want revenge, go take it out on them. I'm innocent here. Lin Xianfeng hopped away in panic, a sniveling mess, as he begged. But the dread only grew and the despair deepened. Smiling, Zhuo Fan looked down on the man but never got closer. He always stayed within 100 meters, you're right. Among the 4, you can be called innocent. But how is it my fault your number came up? I made this game and will respect its rules. You only have old heaven to blame for your hapless fate, ha ha ha. Face sinking deeper in sorrow, Lin Xianfeng gave his all in hopping forward, but could never shake Zhuo Fan off. Since it's fate, I can only resign to it. Why must I suffer so? The hunter could collect on his life any time he wanted, but wasn't doing it for his own amusement. Since death was certain, a quick one was preferred. Lin Xianfeng sighed and slowed down. Zhuo Fan knew what he was thinking from 100 meters away, but you are also right in being innocent. Here's a thought. I see you have the wood exit keys, so I will make an exception. If you can reach the wood exit and Dragon Cloud City within a day, you win and I will consider the matter settled. Truly. The resigned Lin Xianfeng found a glimmer of hope and his speed shot up again. Zhuo Fan's cold tone came from 100 meters away again, I'll be right here, behind you. If your time is up and you're still here, I'll make my move. Lin Xianfeng bobbed his head. You said it, so you better not go back on your word. Ha ha ha, I am playing the game by the books and with no regrets. Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted. Lin Xuanfeng's heart burst with joy and he put more power in his leg. At some point, sweat poured down him like rain and his leg seared with pain. After hopping for half a day, he found that he still had a lot of ground left to cover. He ignored the pain and pushed through at full speed. Zhuo Fan was always behind him, coldly staring and sharpening his bloodthirst. Humph, forest fleeting dragon, did you really think I'll let you live? I only chose the best way to kill you. Not a single person related to Ning'er's death will be spared. Zhuo Fan scoffed internally. Chapter 329, The Best Way to Die. Chapter 329, The Best Way to Die. Elite Coder. Lin Xianfeng, half a day has passed. The owner of the cold eyes stalking the beaten-up prey spoke. Panting, Lin Xianfeng was soaked but wasn't slowing down even for a second. He only took deep breaths and gained more speed, not stopping for his life. In 10 hours I'm making a move. Lin Xianfeng, with his sealed cultivation, had been at it for 14 hours. His speed had been at its peak all this time and his leg shuddered with every hop. The run had been so intense, the sole of his shoe had worn off. He'd been hopping about barefoot through thorns and bushes and was now leaving a blood trail. He wished nothing more than to take a breather after such a long and intense fleeing. But Zhuo Fan's constant cold reminder from behind came as a rude awakening. Stopping meant dying, his corpse forever pushing up daisies in the middle of the forest. Lin Xuanfeng's sole option was to bear through the pain and run. 8 hours left. The countdown on his life aroused Lin Xianfeng from his rambling run and swaying vision. That's too soon. A glance at the sky would give light into this matter. Unless of course a certain face was blocking it, scaring the living daylight out of him. You still have time to stargaze. The clock is ticking. Better hurry up or your head will fall. Zhuo Fan grinned. Lin Xianfeng gasped and forgot about the sky as he sprung forth like mad. Zhuo Fan snickered and resumed following from behind. Like a reaper, his voice descended upon the wretched. 6 hours left. Lin Xuanfeng's eyes were bloodshot in his mad sprint. 4 hours left. Lin Xianfeng ran with his life on the line. Faster than even before he got his cultivation sealed. Only 2 hours, Zhuo Fan's face twisted in a grim smile. Lin Xuanfeng's face fell. He was soaked in sweat, his face red as blood, but his heart was wrecked from this torment. He closed his eyes and ran head first. Passing one more bush just like the thousands before it, Lin Xianfeng saw a green crystal, 4 meters tall. The wood exit. The audience knew Zhuo Fan and the four were playing a deadly game of chase. It looked like he was torturing them. Many believed he pulled a game on them as an excuse to come out of this pickle with his face unmarred. Zhuo Fan was the top dog for thousands of miles around and yet still refrained from setting himself against 4 houses by looking for a reason to let the 4 go. But when Lin Xianfeng came out from the forest, they were shocked. Lin Xianfeng looked nothing like the proud forest fleeting dragon of before. Passing through pointy vegetation barefoot had made pinpoint incisions each time and now his sole of the foot was stripped of flesh. As he crossed the last bush, everyone heard a resounding crack. His knee snapped from the sheer speed, in an open fracture. Anyone moving at such blazing speed would know what that meant. But Zhuo Fan's constant reminder had him scared to death. His mind had been reduced to thinking only about survival and he was unaware what running for his life at such insane speed would do. Not even when his last leg broke and his bloody face crunched into the ground did Lin Xianfeng care. His eyes showed only madness. Watching the wood exit ahead, he cackled. Ha ha ha, I've finally arrived. I can survive. With red eyes and without legs, Lin Xianfeng crawled his way forward as his lips cracked into a smile. Euphoria descended upon his mind. He was going to live. This was the chance Zhuo Fan gave him, the chance to survive. Of the four he was the only one innocent, so Zhuo Fan gave him a way out, as long as he could grasp it. Lin Xianfeng elbowed his way faster towards his hope. The audience was speechless. Why was he looking so wretched and yet found the time to smile? He looked mangled, battered and wretched. Yet had such a crazed look of happiness. What is going on? Nobody would know that Zhuo Fan had turned Lin Xianfeng like this, that he had etched a demon in his heart. I won. I'm going to live. Lin Xianfeng panted as he crawled before the wood exit. With shaking hands, he placed the keys from his ring into the groves with exultation. The audience nodded. The guy looked to be coming out of a torture chamber, but he was going home now. As the last key approached the slot, a lazy leg stepped on his hand and he dropped the crystal. Lin Xianfeng looked in shock to see Zhuo Fan's manic grin. The audience watched the two with hearts in their throat. Was Zhuo Fan such a demon to kill him right at the very end? Lin Xuanfeng's face didn't seem to say so. He wasn't shocked, having known this was coming every 2 hours. Blinking his bleary eyes, Lin Xuanfeng's hoarse voice came out oozing his desperation, I'm here, I won. Zhuo Fan shook his head, peering down on him, unfortunately, time is up. If only you were a fraction faster you'd have made it. A shame. SSS. Lin Xianfeng gasped and his face shuddered, changing from fear to sorrow, to denial, and despair. His eyes shrank and his head slumped. The agony in those eyes was so vivid, anyone could see how hopeless, how dead they were. The people were appalled. A person suddenly appeared, Yan Fu. Yan Fu asked Zhuo Fan, unclear what happened, Steward Zhuo. Zhuo Fan merely gestured at the bloody man. Yan Fu kneeled and felt his neck, Steward Zhuo, he's dead. The people were frightened. Why would a perfectly fine man get up and die? Did they miss Zhuo Fan doing something? Yan Fu asked, he has no mortal wound. Steward Zhuo, how did you do it? Through fear, exhaustion and despair. Zhuo Fan smiled coldly. Yan Fu was even more puzzled. Is this a joke? Since when can a radiant stage expert die from fear, exhaustion and anguish? Zhuo Fan said, I sealed his cultivation so he could only draw speed from his body. When I came upon him, we were a ways away from here. Running all the way here would take 3 days at the minimum. But I told him he had 1 day to escape or I'll kill him. He gave his all and more in running here with me behind him, reminding of the time. Fear had gnawed at his body, making waste more stamina without even realizing it. When he finally did arrive, hope blossomed. After 3 long days of fear, he saw a ray of hope. His state of mind was already shaken when I came and told him the time was up. Then all that hope turned into anguish. Joy into grief, shock into fear. It all happened so fast that these emotions attacked his mind and took his life. That is why I said he was scared to death, but also exhausted to death. Even more so, died from anguish. Zhuo Fan smiled. Yan Fu's heart thumped. He knew Zhuo Fan was vicious, but not that monstrous. He toyed with a man's dignity until the man fell to his death. Gulping, Yan Fu probed, Steward Zhuo, did he reach here in 1 day? Zhuo Fan snickered, the kid had quite the potential. He lived up to his title and was quite fast in getting here with 2 hours to spare too. But as I was always behind like a reaper, I scared him and stopped him from checking the time until he even forgot about the real time. So when I said he lost it. Then despair and fear claimed him, ha ha ha. The Grand Forest Fleeting Dragon truly was the fastest. So fast that he ended up breaking his only leg and died from exhaustion. Wasn't it the best way to die? Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan cackled. Yan Fu and the audience were sweating bullets and a shiver went down their spines. Demon. Chapter 330, next up. Chapter 330, next up. Elite Coder. Bring out the box. Let's see who's the next lucky bastard. Zhuo Fan's condescending smile turned manic. The suspense is killing me. I have to get back in the game, hi. Zhuo Fan's demonic side was there for all to see, sending shivers and horrors to the faint-hearted. People thought Zhuo Fan was using an excuse to let them go, for the bigger picture and whatnot. But they all knew they had grossly overestimated him. Zhuo Fan wanted nothing more than to play a savage game and toy them to death in the process. The hatred boiling in Zhuo Fan had driven him mad for a long time now. His unorthodox method at exacting revenge had few appalled, and the rest horrified. Only those three knew of Lin Xuanfeng's true anguish and pain. The rest would be fortunate to seek out suicide than wait for Zhuo Fan to find them. Shaking their heads, people sighed. Messing with the 7 houses? Fine. Stomping on Regent Estate's toes? Not bad either. But may God have mercy on any who was ignorant enough to incite the wrath of Demon Archon Zhuo Fan. The end wouldn't be pretty, that was for sure. Yan Fu presented the object of interest and Zhuo Fan smiled. He plunged his hand inside and soon came out with the lucky runner-up. Zhuo Fan looked at the number and smirked, humph, enemies meet on a narrow road. So I'll be hunting down this lackey next. Zhuo Fan flipped the wooden piece over toward the wood exit for all to see. 2. None other than Xuening Xiang's killer, Yu Yushan. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed and he pointed above. Whoosh! A flare rose above the clouds, exploding in a brilliant double firework. Huangpu Qingtian and Yan Bangyi checked nervously, then looked at the holes on their chest, and finally relaxed. Thank God it's not me. Though they knew this safety was ephemeral. With how soon Zhuo Fan let out the second flare, it went without saying that Lin Xianfeng had bit the dust. With Yu Yushan as the second victim, who was to know how long he'd last before death would loom over them? With nerves stretched tighter than a violin, the weight was mounting the ever-present fear. They could literally feel Zhuo Fan's demon claw squeezing down on their throat. Like Zhuo Fan said, death wasn't terrifying. But dying was agony. Palpable fear was their longtime companion now, Huangpu Qingtian in particular. The guy had been invincible one too many times in his life and had never experienced this side of a battle, almost having a nervous breakdown. He had reached such a state that any loud noise was treated as Zhuo Fan sending a signal, doing nothing but pushing him further into the depths of despair. Right now, he was angry. Providence had made him king, so how could he be such a coward? He had completely ignored the precarious and erratic state his mind was currently in. Zhuo Fan's death game had him running scared, crushing any royal demeanor he ever had. In another corner of the forest, Yu Yushan finally had the keys to the metal exit. His cheering was quite premature and disconcerting, at least when the flare exploded in the sky and fear replaced any trace of joy. Looking down at his own chest, 2 holes were there for all to see. Demon Zhuo Fan was on the hunt for him. Yu Yushan's face fell, his fate suddenly turning on him. It was so appalling that his mind exploded in quite the colorful curses. That damn rotten Lin Xianfeng. Wasn't he praised for speed? Why did he let himself get caught so fast? Did he give up? Couldn't you hang on for at least a few days longer and let your brothers reach safety? Humph, a gimp is a gimp, alive or dead. Not a single damn use. Yu Yushan cursed at the dead, but the top priority was still getting out of here and out of Zhuo Fan's range. As luck would have it, he was a short way off the metal exit. He only had to reach it and he'd wallow in safety. Yu Yushan set into a sprint, thinking he still had some time before Zhuo Fan got to him. Yu Yushan dashed like a maniac and the fact that Zhuo Fan hadn't shown himself yet, eased some of his tense muscles. His guess had been spot on. Zhuo Fan would need time to get to him. But as we all know, appearances can be deceiving. The golden exit shined its glow before him, like the goddess of victory opening her arms to welcome him. But then his eyes shrank and his body froze in place. What awaited him were two very familiar figures. Yan Fu, the snitch, and Zhuo Fan, the demon. The viewers sighed. Oh, you poor schmuck, these two have been waiting for you for ages and you just had to walk right into their trap. Zhuo Fan looked at the sky and then at the dumbstruck Yu Yushan. You came. I've been waiting here for an hour now. What are you doing here? How did you know I was coming here? And more importantly, did you come here to stop me? Yu Yushan's mind was going a mile a minute, not knowing what to do. He just couldn't tell if Zhuo Fan was now a master diviner or not. How did he get here so fast moments after dealing with Lin Xianfeng? As if a mind reader, Zhuo Fan's cold smile came in response to his thoughts. Yu Yushan, you are Ning'er's executioner. Now then, what's the best way to go about killing you? Gulping, Yu Yushan watched Zhuo Fan inch closer towards him. His legs were shaking like noodles and he soon collapsed in fear. He started bawling on his knees for mercy. Brother, let me go. I am a mere underling. Leng Wuchang is the one who planned to kill her. Huangpu Qingtian was the director and I was merely following orders. Take your revenge on them, I was just a lackey, mere nobody. Please let me go. TCH, what's 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Aren't they all sniveling cowards when death looms? Yan Fu was milking his dread for all he was worth. Zhuo Fan's follower felt no little satisfaction seeing the grand 6 dragons and 1 phoenix treated with such derision. On the viewer's side, everyone sported disgust at Yu Yushan's character. Valley Lord Yuanshan's face was dark and broody. Yu Yushan was a dragon, which in turn represented the image of Hell Valley. Even with his cultivation sealed, meeting Zhuo Fan would merely end up in death. But instead he opted for the coward's way out, bawling on his knees for his miserable life, while also shaming Hell Valley completely. The 7 houses of Tianyu were seen as lofty existences, revered and feared. But now, that respect is long gone. Even the great disciples of their houses were merely men in the end. They fear the strong and death just like the next bloke. Even our clans have a few intrepid characters among us. In this aspect at least, we are stronger than the houses. The 7 houses were seen as gods in the Tianyu Empire. But taking them down from their cozy throne would make all the reverence vanish. Fang Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian nodded with a smile. The way they saw it, Zhuo Fan was practically issuing a death sentence to the houses. At the very least, the vassals the 7 houses enjoyed seeing fighting over their attention, would thin out. It was just another blow at their name, what the emperor only dreamt of achieving. Who'd have thought it would come to fruition at the hands of Zhuo Fan? The 7 houses' image was almost ruined. The emperor would laugh for days if he knew. Long Xingyun and Xia Tianshang sighed at their fortune. The fortune of sticking with Zhuo Fan. Otherwise, they would have been standing in Yu Yushan's place by now. Losing their life was nothing compared to losing their house's image. Zhuo Fan was a demon archon, an incontestable existence. It was far better to join him than suffer his wrath. Long Xingyun looked at Long Yaifi in respect. The old man knows his stuff to see the diamond in the rough. His mind is even sharper to stay close as well. Long Yaifi noticed his son's eyes and held his head high. Xingyun, see that? That's how a house lord should be, to have an eye for talent. Zhuo Fan smirked at the hapless and disgusting thing. Did they also tell you to rob Ning'er's essence? Yu Yushan was sweating bullets, not missing a beat in his begging and bowing. They wanted to see her suffer and all I could do was follow orders. Here, take the girl's essence. Please have it and let me go. Yu Yushan took a censer from his ring and presented it. Zhuo Fan received it and looked at the pure essence within. Feeling the familiar aura, Zhuo Fan's hands shook, his heart was in pain and his eyes looked ready to burst, but he pushed the sadness back. Even with the essence in his hand, his towering rage blew like a volcano. Yu Yushan, since you took it, then you must know how long the body can last before it must be returned. 24 hours, Yu Yushan trembled, his voice faltering under Zhuo Fan's rage. Squinting, Zhuo Fan barked, you know it's useless now, yet you still dare to give it to me? I should smash you to death with it. Zhuo Fan was about to do just that. Yu Yushan held his head in fear. But as it was Ning'er's memento, he couldn't bear to stain her pure essence with this filth. Zhuo Fan put the censer away and smiled, do you believe taking one's essence to be the most excruciating pain? Ha ha ha, that's because you haven't seen me do it. Chapter 331, Devoured. Chapter 331, Devoured. Elite Coder. When you do it, Yu Yushan shuddered in fear. Zhuo Fan sported his trademark twisted smile of cruelty. Those words had Yu Yushan scared to death. Rumble. Yu Yushan found himself paralyzed and slumped. Zhuo Fan walked up to him and showed an icy gourd. Yu Yushan, don't you find it odd how I'm in control of all your actions? How do I know your precise location? Blinking, Yu Yushan was filled with doubt but couldn't even speak. All he could do was watch Zhuo Fan with a chaotic mind. Ha ha ha, I don't mind telling you my little secret. To be quite honest, none of you are poisoned, but have my demonic creature in you as a parasite. These demonic creatures are linked with me. No matter where you go or you wish to go, I'll know it all. Zhuo Fan opened the gourd and a worm wiggled out. Yu Yushan's heart seized in shock. A demonic cultivator had demonic creatures of course, but even he didn't know of such a devastating demonic creature that could control a radiant stage expert. At this moment, he realized that they had Zhuo Fan's parasites within them, and even if they did run, they wouldn't leave Zhuo Fan's control. All of this death game nonsense had been rigged from the start. Zhuo Fan loomed over them like a god and they were his puppets. Yu Yushan groaned in despair. Funny how they were filled with hope in finding the keys to get out alive, when everything was set from the beginning. Their fate was sealed. Zhuo Fan snickered, there's no point in crying over it. You guys still have hope. I won't be out there looking for my next victim as long as the current one entertains me enough. Make it worth my while, let me forget about everything and the others would have enough time to escape. What do you mean by that? Yu Yushan had a very bad feeling about this. Zhuo Fan laughed and said, simple really. I'm ready to have some fun with you. Zhuo Fan flipped the gourd and bloodworms spilled out on Yu Yushan. He was deathly pale but couldn't move, only panicked. Zhuo Fan, what are you doing? Ha ha ha, what indeed? Can't you tell? I'm letting you have a taste of a pain worse than death by essence extraction. Zhuo Fan's eyes showed his savagery. Ah! A wail of agony broke the stillness of the forest. Those 1,000 squirming bloodworms burrowed into Yu Yushan's skin. They began feasting on his flesh and blood started pouring from his body. His face twisted in pain, veins popping, mouth trembling from wanting to bite his tongue, but he was robbed of even that freedom. Zhuo Fan watched the convulsing body with eerie calmness. I've fed these 1,000 bloodworms my blood essence, but how could my meager blood be enough to quench their hunger? Fighting over a single drop of blood has turned them vicious. But thanks to you showing up, they can finally have their fill, ha ha ha. And that's not even half of it. They have tiny jaws but are quite pointy, with a passion for a man's mind. Over the next few days, you ought to feel it, the pain. It's likely 100 times worse than having your essence drawn. The good news is, they are quite the slow eaters and like to keep the taste fresh, you see. So as they work their way deeper, they make sure to keep you from bleeding out. You won't die anytime soon, let me tell you, just enough for you to enjoy the sweet and blissful pain, ha ha ha. Ah, just kill me. Yu Yushan gnashed his teeth, roaring like a beast. Zhuo Fan only mocked him, that's not very nice. All the pain you're feeling will help buy your eldest young master time. Isn't he your master? Weren't you obeying his orders? What can a meager sacrifice compare to that? Fuck him and kill me already. Then go and kill him too. Why should I suffer for him? Yu Yushan's eyes were popping out of his skull. Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted coldly, since you don't consider him your master, why did you listen to his order and let Ning'er suffer? Humph, wake up and smell the roses. A man should own up to his mistakes and bear through the consequences. Zhuo Fan smiled and sat down to the side to heal. The wails of agony music to his ears. Yan Fu shuddered, his back cold as ice. Glancing at the howling figure, then at the calm Zhuo Fan, his awe only grew. Steward Zhuo's revenge isn't to be taken lightly. Not even the insufferable brats from the 7 houses have such capacity for cruelty. This was a good opportunity to see the vicious side of soaring demonic dragon. The viewers listened to the screams with fear in their hearts. Shui clan's 3 generations knew Zhuo Fan was doing it for Ning'er, but even they found the cruelty a touch inhumane. They found the murderer of their dear Ning'er a sorry sight, having offended Zhuo Fan. They actually felt pity for him. If the victims themselves would think so of their tormentor, it went without saying about the rest. In the minds of everyone out there, a single thought ruled: never ever mess with this demon archon. Even as time trickled by, Yu Yushan's ravings never stopped. A day later, Yu Yushan's skin was gnawed away by the bloodworms, his face unrecognizable. He looked like a dried corpse, red all over yet without a drop of blood on him. The bloodworms made sure not to spill their drink, while Yu Yushan's screams were relentless. On the 2nd day, all of Yu Yushan's tendons were devoured. All that was left was a pile of flesh, having nothing to hold him together. But Yu Yushan's cries kept on coming. On the 3rd day, Yu Yushan's flesh was next. Even if he wanted to wail now, he couldn't. Wailing for 2 days straight had turned him mute. Then came the 4th day and the bloodworms went to work on his bones. Finally, on the 9th day, Yu Yushan was picked almost completely clean. Whether intentional or not, the bloodworms left behind his vital organs intact. As if to let him see with his own eyes the gory sight that he was, without flesh and bones. At this vile and gruesome sight, Yan Fu's stomach flipped and emptied. The viewers were horrified by the torture, turning away to keep their own sanity. Yu Yushan's eyes glistened, begging Zhuo Fan for death, the only thing he could do. His throat, neck and tongue had long been devoured. All that was left of him were a few arteries and organs barely keeping him from flatlining. Yet it was a pain worse than death. Zhuo Fan glanced at the sufferer, looked at his pleading face, and said, "Want to die?" Yu Yushan rolled his eyes frantically. With the eyelids gone as well, he was hardly equipped to convey his meaning. Zhuo Fan understood him clearly either way. Zhuo Fan said, "Let this be a lesson. You can mess with the king of hell, but never with this steward." Yu Yushan's eyes moved faster, to convey that he understood. The viewers watched in shock. Zhuo Fan was speaking more to them than to the dying Yu Yushan. His meaning was crystal clear. See that? Be nice and don't side with that rotten regent estate against me. So what if you're from the 7 houses? Your death will be as brutal as I feel like it. Everyone came to the same sensible decision then and there, to be cautious. While for regent estate's vassals, their minds began working as well, although from a different angle. To never involve themselves with the Luo clan, even in death. Their steward is a god-damned inquisitor. Fang Qiubai rejoiced inside. The brat is awesome. He made one guy take the fall and scared the rest from ever getting anywhere near regent estate. Huangpu Tianyuan's face sank. He felt it loud and clear, how Zhuo Fan had trampled on the regent estate's 1,000-year-long prestige. How could they proclaim themselves rulers over Tianyu if everyone gave them a wide berth? Everyone from the regent estate looked at Zhuo Fan with hatred and helplessness. Zhuo Fan signaled the bloodworms to devour the organs. They moved quickly and Yu Yushan was gone in moments. It was obvious that Zhuo Fan was lying out of his ass when he said that bloodworms were slow eaters. It was only a means to torture Yu Yushan more. But watching himself being eaten quickly, spared of any further torment, Yu Yushan's final gaze was that of relief. Yan Fu gasped and rushed with the box over, "Steward Zhuo, please." "No need." Zhuo Fan waved, his eyes savage, "We've wasted too much time here and the criminals are about to escape." Zhuo Fan released another flare. One firework, Huangpu Qingtian's number was up. "Just you wait. You are the one who will never ever leave this place alive." Chapter 332, Dragon Eater. Chapter 332, Dragon Eater. Elite Coder. Bang! A blazing light shined above Beast King Mountain just as Huangpu Qingtian got out from a bush. He saw a single firework and panicked. The demon has finally set his sights on me. However, with a sly grin, Huangpu Qingtian's eyes glinted and his hand flickered with 2 red crystals. He, too little too late. Huangpu Qingtian took a deep breath and rushed forward filled with excitement. He had the fire keys and even the fire exit was just around the corner, needing merely 2 hours to reach it. From the distance of the flare, he noticed that Zhuo Fan was far away and would need a long time to catch up with how damaged he was. Even in this great escape, the true winner shall be me, the rightful king. Ha ha ha, Yu Yushan, well done in keeping the demon occupied for so long. I really have to thank you for helping me live. Huangpu Qingtian's tone turned colder, although, that's providence. Sacrificing yourself for me is the highest form of death. I am a true king for old heaven to pave my way, ha ha ha. Cackling, Huangpu Qingtian sped up as the arrogance returned to his face. To him, everything and anything that happened was providence. Zhuo Fan could have easily broken his neck and be done with, but who knew what came over him to turn it all into a death game. Zhuo Fan had already killed 2 of them, leaving the first and third free to roam the forest for quite a long time. This was clearly heaven bestowing its blessings and allowing the rightful king to make a comeback, to rule the world. Huangpu Qingtian's narcissistic tendencies knew no bounds. Zhuo Fan, I'll let you have this one. But I am the true king. One day you will die by my hand, humph. Bloodthirst entered his eyes as he ran faster. Whoosh. An hour later, Huangpu Qingtian flashed out of the high grass and appeared before the crimson crystal exit, with no one else around. Huangpu Qingtian's face lit up. I knew the punk wouldn't make it. It's my win. The viewers saw him appear as well and were getting nervous. Was Zhuo Fan running late, leaving this guy to win? Everyone thought of it as a darn shame. Not just Drifting Flower's edifice and allies, but Regent Estate's many vassals hung their heads in defeat. It had started with Zhuo Fan having the 4 of their lives at his fingertips. He had insisted on torturing them one at a time only to finally let the main culprit off the hook. It wasn't out of hate for Huangpu Qingtian, but people felt sorry for Zhuo Fan. If the prey slipped away from one's fingers, it was the worst feeling anyone could have. People started to send their hearts to Zhuo Fan. This must be the magnetism of the strong. Leng Wuchang frowned at everyone's reaction. As things stood, it was only a matter of time before Zhuo Fan would tarnish Regent Estate's entire reputation. The elders from Regent Estate had no clue about this, only rejoicing at seeing their eldest young master almost out of the woods. Huangpu Qingtian was after all a renowned genius that not even the Regent Estate could afford to lose. I just need to put the crystals in and I'm done. Panting, Huangpu Qingtian reached the exit and stabbed the crystals in the grooves. Hum. A red pillar shot for the skies in a dazzling light show. Huangpu Qingtian stared at the light with a smile. Ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan, I won. I'm still alive. Regent Estate's elders were excited as well, watching the national elemental stone with red eyes. If only the array wasn't a one-way transfer, they'd be in there dragging him here. Eldest young master, don't show off and hurry already. But a king wasn't a king without a bit of swag and hot air. Since he got out of hell, he had to first regain his rightful appearance worthy of his position, being unnecessarily pompous. Unhurried in the least, especially when one step got him home, Huangpu Qingtian's cocky look made the Regent Estate elders gnash their teeth. Huangpu Qingtian first began with cleaning up his act and straightening his messy hair. He didn't forget to recover his usual haughty look after the exhaustion he had suffered all these days running, to regain his poised nobility and to return home triumphant. Regent estate elders' faces twitched. They wished nothing more than to give him a beating. Eldest young master, prancing aside, you're still in grave danger. Your life is about to run out, yet you actually have the time to stroke your ego? Humph, you'll only have yourself to blame if you die now. The Regent estate's elders sighed, not realizing their complaints turned out to be curses. Huangpu Qingtian, having finally recovered a modicum of royal cockiness, strutted towards the fire exit like the true winner of the esoteric debate. Then, a thunderous boom came with the fall of lightning. Stop! Huangpu Qingtian's lifted leg twisted and exploded in a mist of blood. His body had yet to pass the veil and a heart-rending pain stabbed his chest as he collapsed. Huangpu Qingtian didn't need to turn around to know who was behind him. Startled, Huangpu Qingtian never would have guessed Zhuo Fan would reach him so fast when he was already so hurt. Does this mean he was going to die? What about that prancing just now? All that showing off and priming himself made him look like a clown. Huangpu Qingtian gnashed his teeth and kicked with his remaining leg before he hit the ground, aiming for the exit. His life aside, he had to survive and maintain his regal prestige. He could not allow his royal self to be reduced to a laughingstock. He had to become the final winner, the only champion, and receive the people's worship. But a flash of thunder and a black figure slamming into his spine destroyed any hope of reaching the full height of his glory. Instead, he was now a meter into the ground and spitting blood. What made it worse was his finger being a millimeter from victory. So close yet so far. Eldest young master. The Regent estate elders cried. Struggling so hard to make one last push yet failing, filled Huangpu Qingtian with desperation. Stepping on Huangpu Qingtian, Zhuo Fan grinned and panted, Huangpu Qingtian, I finally caught up. You almost had me worried there, that I would lose my chance, he. Zhuo Fan, how did you get here so fast? Huangpu Qingtian turned a hateful glare at the man on his spine. But didn't finish as it all made sense. Behind Zhuo Fan was Yan Fu jumping off of a purple bird and rushing to Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan snickered, do you get it now? I lost my wings, but I still have a thunder skylark. With speed as its focus, it was of great help catching up in time. Huangpu Qingtian lamented. How could I forget that punk still had a spiritual beast? It had gotten to his head that with the punk's meager speed, he had enough time to prance a bit and tend to his regal good looks. He would have skipped all that waste of time if he knew and avoided this mess by jumping right in. But no, he just had to show off his flashy side and die, becoming the butt of Tianyu's joke. Huangpu Qingtian wailed some more, Zhuo Fan, kill me then. But I am king decreed by heaven and I ask that you let me go with dignity. Squinting, Zhuo Fan snorted, humph, dignity is it? Sure. I'll make sure to pick the most dignified death I can think of. Zhuo Fan leaned and bit his ear off. Ah! Huangpu Qingtian raved in pain, Zhuo Fan, what are you doing? Me? Humph, didn't you want the most dignified death? Wish granted. I'll bury you all in my belly, far more respectful than having dirt peppered all over you in a hole somewhere. Zhuo Fan grinned with bloodthirsty eyes. That came as a shock to all who heard him. Soaring demonic dragon was planning on eating heaven-shaking dragon lord alive? Followed by shivers of fear. That is the cruelest death yet. Chapter 333, Royal Transfer. Chapter 333, Royal Transfer. Elite Coder. Huangpu Qingtian was startled at his words and saw Zhuo Fan spit his ear horrified. How come he didn't see Zhuo Fan coming up with such a gruesome death penalty for him? What dignified? I will even lose my rights as a human being. What made it worse was being stripped of his kingly aura. Far more gruesome than Lin Xianfeng and Yu Yushan's deaths, that was for sure. Zhuo Fan, why you're a demon. You dare eat me? Huangpu Qingtian squinted, appalled. Grinning, with Huangpu Qingtian's blood marring his lips, Zhuo Fan's eyes had a manic glint. Yes, that's exactly right. I was thinking about the best way to torture you, for you to feel the most pain. I've decided this is the perfect end for you. It won't be the most painful, Yu Yushan had it 100 times worse, nor the most humiliating, Lin Xianfeng has you beat at that, but for the one sentencing Ninger to death, I chose this for you. And do you know why? Ha ha ha, it's the one that brings me the most joy. Devouring you is the only way to ease this raging maelstrom of hatred inside of me. Zhuo Fan bit down again, took off a large chunk from Huangpu Qingtian's scruff, making his victim howl to the sky and tears flow down his cheeks. Yen Fu shuddered and took 2 discreet steps back. The viewers couldn't look anymore, feeling bile coming into their throats. Their hearts hammered in their chest, threatening to jump out any second. Zhuo Fan was right. Eating him alive wasn't the most painful, nor the most shameful, but it was the most horrible. Everyone had fear in their eyes. Zhuo Fan's earlier punishments made him look like a demon, but now he was a demon archon. Only Chu Qingchen was without worry, fear or anxiety, just sadness. For Zhuo Fan to have such hatred towards Huangpu Qingtian, it showed the pain he was enduring. A pain so great that only through this savage act could he somewhat appease it. Ah! Zhuo Fan grinned. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes bulged, his veins popped, his regal face twisted horribly. Zhuo Fan, I am the rightful king appointed by Providence itself. You will receive heavenly punishment for eating me. Huangpu Qingtian roared. Zhuo Fan shook his head, he, heavenly punishment. I've been going against heaven all this time, so what's there to fear going a bit further? Your so-called providence is a grand delusion you found yourself in. Even if you had heaven's protection, it wouldn't change a thing. I'd still come after you even if I had to pierce the 9 heavens. Zhuo Fan bit down again, his teeth bloody. Roar! Incited by Huangpu Qingtian's words, a dragon roar sounded and his bloody body let out a golden light. Zhuo Fan was startled. He had the bloodworm seal Huangpu Qingtian's cultivation. So why is he releasing such a strong power? The answer came soon. The golden dragon soul shot from Huangpu Qingtian into the sky before coming back down towards Zhuo Fan. Dragon soul's protection. Zhuo Fan frowned and sighed. He had totally forgotten about Huangpu Qingtian's dragon vein soul coming to save him in dire moments. Leng Wuchang and Huangpu Tianyuan snickered at this point. Zhuo Fan was so weak that the dragon vein soul would attack his soul and end him. Who? A dragon image flashed by and the dragon's soul passed through Zhuo Fan. A searing pain struck his head and he spat blood from how damaged his soul was. Ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan, you got what was coming for you. If you just killed me, none of this would have happened. But you, a lesser man, had to dare eat this king. Now you will die being devoured by the dragon soul. Huangpu Qingtian cackled. Despite being riddled with bite wounds, he still had the time to laugh. I am the true rightful king of heaven. I am untouchable, ha ha ha. Fang Qiubai was startled. In the most intense moment, the dragon vein soul actually came out to defend him. Is Huangpu Qingtian truly a son of heaven for the dragon soul to protect him so much? Zhuo Fan only grinned. He saw the dragon soul coming for another pass and said, Humph, a mere earth spirit dares defy this emperor? Die! Then an azure flame flickered from his forehead. The azure flame expanded into a firebird. It took to the skies and shot for the petrified dragon soul. The dragon soul downright panicked, shuddered, then hightailed it. A bit too late for that, unfortunately. The azure bird flashed before it and clawed at its body. It held the dragon like a meager worm as it doubled back. The dragon's soul only whimpered as the bird flew back to Zhuo Fan. Now that got a reaction out of the crowd, or more precisely a lack of reaction. People stared at Zhuo Fan blankly. Huangpu Qingtian's mind blew away as he couldn't quite find any words to speak. What the hell? That's a dragon vein soul. How does a blue bird get to dangle it back just like that? The kid has his own spirit, far stronger than even Huangpu Qingtian's dragon vein soul. Fang Qiubai shouted. The dragon vein soul was a rarity in the world, the symbol of kings. Who thought it possible then that Zhuo Fan would have something far more deadly? Just who is he? He is from a third-rate clan, so why is he covered with treasures? Zhuge Changfeng stroked his beard, watching Zhuo Fan with blazing eyes. Only Regent Estate's side was in pain. The stronger Zhuo Fan was, the bigger the threat. And now that the king's symbol was crushed so easily, this feeling only grew stronger. This signified he was the rightful king upon this world, heaven approved. Regent Estate's resentment billowed and their hatred grew. Zhuo Fan, the little demon, no longer just had the potential to be a threat, but a veritable one at their own survival. A monster that defied the heavens. We need to make time and seek the high priest for answers. Where did he come from? How did he make the dragon vein soul surrender? Huangpu Tianyuan sighed. Leng Wuchang nodded as well, his face deep in ponder. Man proposed and heaven disposed. Leng Wuchang had flawless plans, but that only accounted for men. Anything he tried with those decreed by heaven would be rendered null. They would be under Providence's care and would come back from death's door stronger than ever. He never wanted to mess with these freaks for the same reason. Huangpu Qingtian qualified as one when he got the dragon soul's approval. All of the regent estate, including him, called Huangpu Qingtian as heaven's chosen. That his arrogance was God-given and justified. That belief only grew stronger as the third of the four pillars, Tianyu's high priest, gave his vague acknowledgement. But at this very moment, this heaven's chosen was being eaten alive by Zhuo Fan. Even his guardian, Dragon Soul, could do nothing to stop it. Is this also by providence that the punk has a kingly disposition? Or is it perhaps coming from somewhere beyond heaven? Leng Wuchang saw Zhuo Fan as a fearful enigma. Huangpu Qingtian saw his dragon soul coming back in the bird's claws and cried, Zhuo Fan, who the hell are you? You just called yourself emperor, then. None of your business. Zhuo Fan mocked, all you need to know is this. Messing with me is the worst mistake of your miserable life. Zhuo Fan took a bite out of his throat this time, tearing it off. Blood poured and Huangpu Qingtian's eyes dulled, feeling his life drained from him. With that, the golden energy left his body and entered Zhuo Fan. The azure bird brought the dragon soul back. Just in time to see the golden energy moving into Zhuo Fan, it released its claws in shock. The dragon soul roared in its newfound freedom. But it didn't attack Zhuo Fan this time, and instead circled him twice. It watched the golden energy move, then entered Zhuo Fan's body itself. Roar! As another dragon roar came, Zhuo Fan didn't seem to feel any change, but then he exploded with light. The azure bird nodded and returned into Zhuo Fan as well. Huangpu Tianyuan, having witnessed this event, cried, Royal transfer. The world is about to change. Chapter 334, World Changes. Chapter 334, World Changes. Elite Coder. Roar. With one more dragon roar, Zhuo Fan glowed golden as he himself let out a roar of his own. Huangpu Qingtian soaked in his own blood, weak and fading. Watching the blinding golden light, he shouted his frustration and agony in his mind. That is my right. Zhuo Fan, give it back, give it back. Zhuo Fan had bit his throat clean off and he had no way to speak. He could only express the regret and resentment on his face as he watched his greatest enemy steal his own dragon soul, take his dragon power, and for Providence to make him king instead. How is this possible? How can Providence change? I am Tianyu's rightful ruler. Return my dragon soul. It's not you, not you. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes dimmed and he finally slumped his head, losing the last trace of life. Only his resentful eyes still spoke of his wretched death. The viewers couldn't care less about Huangpu Qingtian's grievances. They had more important things to mind right now, like watching Zhuo Fan. Dragon Vein's dragon soul can be transferred? Does that mean Zhuo Fan is the new king decreed by heaven? Rumble. With a thunderclap, the sky darkened and lightning brewed. The earth shook so hard no one could stand up straight. On Beast King Mountain, all spiritual beasts curled up in the safety of their den. Even the dreaded 6th-level spiritual beasts tucked away their heads in fear. Only Zhuo Fan roared at the sky, while the golden light grew in intensity. "Prime Minister, what's happening?" his 2 elders asked. Zhuge Changfeng saw them baffled and sighed with a grave face as he said, "The high priest told me once that when the world shakes, heavy changes are upon us. Tianyu is about to change." The people turned back to the roaring Zhuo Fan with a pensive expression. Is this change related to that man? In Regent Estate's home city, Caged Dragon City, the earth shuddered, and the entire city wobbled. High Venerable Huangpu Fenglei woke up from his meditation in shock. He came out of his room and shouted, "Guard, what is going on?" "High Venerable, the dragon vein is rebelling." A profound heaven expert kneeled. Huangpu Fenglei shouted, "Impossible. Regent Estate has defended the dragon vein for 1,000 years and it has never rebelled once. One of the 9 dragon souls even came out from the seal, so how can it still rebel?" "I don't know, but the other 8 are hammering the seal. The shock waves have killed many bone-tempering experts. We can't hold much longer, High Venerable. What do we do?" Huangpu Fenglei frowned and shouted, "Call all Regent Estate's venerables at the seal and suppress the dragon souls. Get the ones in seclusion as well. If they are released, we'll be the first to suffer their wrath." "Understood." The man rushed to obey. Huangpu Fenglei shot for the seal the next second. He just couldn't make sense of why the dragon vein souls would suddenly rebel. In a dark alley of Caged Dragon City, shadows shifted. "Elder Yen, how do we get in with Regent Estate on high alert?" a charming voice said. She was Lei Yuding, Luo Clan's Shadow Corps captain. The one across from her was Vicious Pill King, in his 40s. Looking at the strict guard at the gate, just like in the imperial capital, Yen Song sighed, "Even with the energy-concealing pill to evade the guards, we'll be sitting ducks once we set foot inside with the dozens of venerables and their discerning fields. Slipping in now is impossible. We still have to do it." Zhuo Fan said, "We will one day go to war with the 7 houses and an intelligence network is paramount. With the Regent Estate having Leng Wuchang, it is imperative that we get any information as early as possible." Lei Yuding was firm in her decision. Yen Song sighed. He caressed his beard, thinking of a way to achieve it. A sudden boom shook the ground and the sky, and a billowing black cloud launched lightning everywhere in Caged Dragon City. Yen Song's team had no idea what happened. All they saw were men rushing towards a golden light. They were a mix of radiant stage experts and profound heaven experts. Vicious Pill King was speechless, then burst out, "Ha ha ha, it's Providence. Something big must be happening to Regent Estate right now to get all venerables and their profound heaven experts to leave this place. It doesn't get more deserted than this. Lass, follow me." "Great." Lei Yuding perked up and signaled for the other men to follow as they slipped within Regent Estate. Each one of them was carrying a meter-large bag with something squirming inside. In the imperial capital, the emperor was perusing a report, checking the empire's situation, when the rumbling started. A black cloud thick as night loomed overhead, flickering with lightning. The earth was shaking so badly that the ink spilled on the neat parchment. "What's going on?" "Tianyu has been enjoying prosperity for 1,000 years. How can it suddenly shake so much?" The emperor swayed as the reports were rolling on the floor. "This isn't a good sign, something bad is happening. Guard, send for the high priest. Report." What came was a guard bowing and presenting a paper. "Your Majesty, the parish had sent someone over and asked me to present this paper to your Majesty. They added that all that concerns your Majesty is in here. If there are still doubts, they cannot help as heaven does not reveal its secrets." Eyes twitching, the emperor said, "Give it here. That old geezer must be a god to pry into heaven's will and foresee this event." "Yes." The guard presented the paper. The emperor took it and frowned as he read. A short poem was written, but he couldn't make sense of it. The world shook at the shake of the earth dragon's tail, then came the celestial dragon to quell the chaos. As both the celestial and earth dragons exist, the land and rivers shall each call their king. What is this supposed to mean? Does the old foggy only know to talk in riddles? Can't he say anything clearly? The emperor shook his head as he pondered, the land and rivers shall each call their king. Does it mean Tianyu will split and the empire will be in chaos? The emperor's eyes flashed, "No, I can't let that happen. My Yuan clan won't be divided." "Humph, what land, rivers and kings? Tianyu will forever remain whole, under the Yuan clan." The emperor stared at the billowing thunder cloud with intense killing intent. "Not even heaven can stop me." On Beast King Mountain, Zhuofan howled for 9 days and 9 nights. The shaking soon spread to all of the Tianyu Empire, persisting just as long. It only stopped when Zhuofan did. The audience watched in shock, knowing full well that the world had changed and that Zhuofan was in the center of it all. Was this the world's way of bestowing royal power? Everyone started seeing Zhuofan in a different light. Fang Qiubai especially. He used to care about Zhuofan's fate, and now could feel Zhuofan, with the dragon's soul and providence by his side, was the greatest threat to Tianyu's imperial family. It left him pulled in 2 directions. Should he snuff him in the cradle or report to his majesty? Dugu Zhantian was in the same situation. He and the Luo clan were practically family. Luo Yunhai was even his 5th godson. He could never raise his hand against the Luo clan's steward. But Zhuofan was now a threat to the imperial family. A loyal marshal like him couldn't overlook this. The two looked at each other and sighed. Leng Wuchang saw their dilemma and whispered to Huangpu Tianyuan, "Estate lord, the kid will arrive any second now. You and the other 3 house lords are to kill him swiftly and prevent a calamity." "How can that be? Fang Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian are radiant stage experts. That's asking for death, attacking right in front of them." Huangpu Tianyuan gasped. Leng Wuchang shook his head, "Estate lord, relax. They would have done anything to protect Zhuofan earlier, but now things have changed. We aren't the only ones who want to see the kid dead. Because of grief, you couldn't hold your hand and killed the kid. Won't you garner everyone's sympathy?" Huangpu Tianyuan's eyes lit up and he saw reason. He nodded, with a sinister smile. Chapter 335, Fanatic Protects. Chapter 335, Fanatic Protects. Elite Coder. Taking a deep breath, Zhuofan looked at the faint golden glow around himself and smiled, sensing the golden dragon resting in his dantian. He had used diamond sand to temper himself and now he had dragon veins, dragon power and a king's dragon soul. 3 great treasures for body cultivation combined in one vessel. He simply needed to refine the dragon power and unite with the dragon's soul and his body would soar above even Huangpu Qingtian's. Speaking of which, he threw a condescending smile at those resentful eyes. "Weren't you calling yourself a rightful king, decreed by providence? Humph, I stole everything you had, including your destiny." Suddenly, Zhuofan fell silent and his heart felt uneasy. Is the dragon soul's shift heaven sent or a disaster? He felt something in the air had changed. As the dragon's soul now resided within his body, he sensed the other faction's attitude shift. Especially the imperial families. Then again, which emperor out there would allow the one calling himself rightful king take his throne? Huangpu Qingtian was so egotistical to spout it left and right because the regent estate had his back. For Zhuo Fan to keep his life. The time has come for the Luo clan to show its power. Squinting, Zhuo Fan sighed. Then, a yellow pillar of light shot into the sky 1,000 miles from him. Yan Fu paled, Yan Bangyi got away. Zhuo Fan glanced and merely shook his head, an ant, nothing more. Yan Fu stammered, but kept his trap shut despite the resentment. What, you have a bone to pick with him? Zhuo Fan saw right through him. Yan Fu only sighed. Zhuo Fan patted his shoulder, his eyes glinting mysteriously. Relax, you are with me now. I will definitely help you deal with it. Yan Fu saw Zhuo Fan's cryptic smile. Yan Bangyi passed through the Earth National Elemental Stone flustered, gasping and rejoicing for having escaped that living nightmare. Yan Bagong almost broke down crying from joy. My family. I'm finally back. It wasn't easy escaping that monster. Yan Bagong saw Pil King Hall's most prized pupil return in tears. Of the 6 dragons, Zhuo Fan had reaped 3, making the last survivor to be treated like a treasure. The Pil King Hall rushed to console him and congratulate the safe return of their plague dragon. After a short moment of joy, Hall Lord Yan Bagong turned to Zhuo Fan being reflected on the Fire National Elemental Stone. His face grew dark and he said, Bangyi, we and Estate Lord Huangpu struck a secret deal. When the punk comes back we'll attack him together. Stay behind me and try to land the killing blow to wash the shame of betrayal. Let the world know of Pil King Hall's power. Yan Bangyi jerked, but when he saw Zhuo Fan all he had was deep-rooted fear. Spare me, Hall Lord. I escaped that monster by the skin of my teeth and now you want me to die again? Yan Bagong knew what he was thinking and got angry. Useless prick, are you that horrified after the punk gave you a little fright? Humph, relax. It will be us old fellows going first. You only have to go and collect his head and restore our image. This is an easy merit. What, you don't even know how to pick up a head? Yan Bangyi was quite hesitant but nodded at the end. Yan Bagong broke out into a smile, that's our Pil King Hall's disciple, ha ha ha. Viewers turned their attention to the Fire National Elemental Stone, waiting for Zhuo Fan and Yan Fu's return. It's time. Zhuo Fan stood before the fire exit, viewers clueless of his meaning as was Yan Fu. But then, he looked at the sky and raised his palm as he muttered. Yan Fu asked, Steward Zhuo, what? Yan Fu, weren't you vexed at letting Yan Bangyi off? Ha ha ha, as a reward for your great service, and your welcome gift in the Luo clan, I, its steward, shall fulfill your cherished wish. Zhuo Fan started to bend one finger at a time as he said, 5, 4. Everyone was puzzled just like Yan Fu. 3, 2. What is the punk playing at? Yan Bagong looked at his allies. Only Leng Wuchang was in constant pondering, then shouted at Yan Bagong, Hall Lord Yan, get away from the kid. What? Yan Bagong was still out of it. Just then, everyone heard, 1. With the final word, Zhuo Fan made a fist. Bang! A ringing explosion came out of nowhere as Yan Bangyi didn't even realize as he went boom. The devastating power crippled the elders from Pil King Hall. Yan Bangyi had just entered the radiant stage and his explosion took many elders down with him. Even their vassals came out bloodied. Their casualties were in the hundreds. While the lucky ones who survived didn't get to enjoy their fortune as Yan Bangyi's blood landed on them, eating their flesh and bone alike. Everything around Pil King Hall was thrown into chaos, with corpses littering the ground. Pil King Hall instantly lost 8 elders, a crippling blow. Yan Bagong crawled from beneath a pile of corpses and shook at the carnage laid before him. What happened? Why are Pil King Hall's experts almost all dead? Looking at the corpse pinning him down, Yan Bagong panicked as he pushed it away, seeing it was eaten by Yan Bangyi's blood, a trait of the poison body. If not for the guy taking the fall for him, he'd be dead right now. The other houses saw the horror and fled from Pil King Hall. No one could understand why the peach-perfect Yen Bongi just popped. But a malicious cackle grated their ears. Hi hi hi. Zhuo Fan held his forehead as he laughed. Noon got the joke and neither did Yen Fu. Steward Zhuo, what's wrong? Oh, nothing, only laughing at a bunch of morons. Did they actually think I'd let him live? Yen Fu blinked, to which Zhuo Fan explained, from the start, I made sure to come prepared. The bloodworms are connected to me, so I made sure to arm them. As long as any of those dumbasses left Beast King Mountain, they were to self-destruct in 10 minutes. What a stroke of luck, they always believed they had a way out and they gave their all in reaching the exit. All of it was just a grand act, a joke of epic proportions, ha ha ha. This entire game was never meant to have a winner. Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted. Yen Fu's heart froze. Going by his words, Yen Bongi became a ticking time bomb the moment he stepped in Dragon Cloud City. He must be in pieces by now. Zhuo Fan grinned, knowing what was going in that head of his. You guessed it, the brat is toast, cooked. A radiant stage expert's self-destruct ought to have taken many lives with him as well. As for how many, care to guess? Was there even a point? Almost none from Pil King Hall could escape. Yen Bongi was put in the center moments after returning. Finding out that the rotten senior brother of his who always mocked him was toyed to death by the demon himself, Yen Fu should be happy. But no joy reached his heart. For some odd reason, he felt safe around Zhuo Fan, true, but the fear was up to par by comparison. It was unnerving. Even when his most hated enemy suffered at the hands of the demon, what he felt instead was a bit of sympathy. True to his words. You can mess with the king of hell, but never with this steward. Offending the king of hell, at the worst you just die. Offend Steward Zhuo, and you'd find that even death would be a luxury. In Dragon Cloud City, everyone looked at Zhuo Fan in dread. Yen Bongi ran with such zeal thinking he'd escape, but Zhuo Fan cooked a little something for Pil King Hall and sent him off with a package. This creepy method and insidious plot left the survivors shuddering. Even Leng Wuchang, a renowned mind in the empire, looked at the snickering figure in fear. Zhuo Fan had long surpassed Zhuge Changfeng and became his biggest enemy. Well, time to head back. Zhuo Fan returned to his cool demeanor, but his eyes hid a deep and heavy sorrow as he walked towards the red glow. Yen Fu nodded. Whoosh! The two stepped through and were back. The people treated him like a demon, shaking in fear. Only the girls were happy seeing him alive and went to welcome him. Then it happened. Explosions sounded as 4 men attacked the pair. A great pressure fell on the people, making them fall back in panic. The 4 were none other than Huangpu Tianyuan and his allies, all peak profound heaven house lords. Feng Qiubai was about to block them but stayed his hand. After careful consideration, he picked neutrality. Dugu Zhantian watched it all with a cold eye and a lament. Perhaps, it's for the best. Only Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingcheng were devastated. They wanted to give a helping hand. Zhuo Fan, you'll pay for what you did to my son. Huangpu Tianyuan roared his righteous excuse, punching straight for Zhuo Fan. Yen Fu, behind Zhuo Fan, could barely breathe from the power display. The other 3 house lords unleashed their own might as well. Zhuo Fan, heavily wounded, was besieged by 4 experts on all sides. Escape was not an option. Not that he was worried. With a twisted grin, he said, sorry, but you're a little late in getting revenge for Huangpu Qingtian. An explosion followed as a black figure slammed the 4 into the air. Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted and he smiled, as I live and breathe, elderly. Chapter 336, Fanatic Fights Sword God. Chapter 336, Fanatic Fights Sword God. Elite Coder. Boom. The ringing from the boom had yet to stop, forcing the people to cover their ears. The thick dust had Zhuo Fan and Yen Fu obscured within it. Huangpu Tianyuan's team of 4 finally landed while coughing blood. The respective house elders surrounded their house lords and checked their wounds. But Huangpu Tianyuan flicked his sleeve, shooing the elder before him aside. His eyes peered into the dust and he spat, "Who the hell dares to interfere in the regent estate's affairs?" Feng Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian looked towards the commotion with a frown. They knew who it was, but they were baffled why that man was on Zhuo Fan's side. The rest of the houses watched intently. They were all dying to know at this point. Who had the nerve to save Zhuo Fan from the clutches of regent estate? Once the dust settled, somewhat, it revealed an imposing physique. An outstandish old man, poised and his back straight, stood in front of Zhuo Fan. His tyrannical aura bent on crushing everyone in his path hung heavy over everyone's hearts. He was none other than one of the rare top radiant stage experts in Tianyu. Mad Dipper, Li Jingtian. A regent estate elder shouted, "Elderly, you are a guest venerable of ours. Where have you been over the past few years? Why are you suddenly siding with that punk? He is the regent estate's greatest enemy." Those words set the crowd reeling. The mystery expert was regent estate's venerable, the living legend, Mad Dipper Li Jingtian. He truly lived up to his name, respected and feared both. Feng Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian were startled as well. Nobody knew of Li Jingtian's strength before, but the vibes he was sending deterred even the mighty divine dragon. "Elder Li!" A cry sounded, making the eyes of everyone land on Luo Yunchang. To everyone's shock, she ran to Li Jingtian's side and patted his chest. "Thanks to your timely arrival, Zhuo Fan is safe." Twitching, everyone looked puzzled, the 7 house lords included. "What's that Lu Miss doing being so friendly with that savage fiend?" Li Jingtian's reaction however got a priceless expression out of them all. "Ha ha ha, young miss, relax. Nothing will happen to Steward Zhuo, not when he has such a cunning nature." Li Jingtian laughed. The people went slack-jawed. "Say, what? Young miss? Steward Zhuo? Tell me it isn't true. How, why, when? The Luo clan is just a third-rate upstart clan. How in the hell did they manage to entice that old freak Mad Dipper to become their venerable instead? That makes the Luo clan practically on par with the 7 houses. Ha ha ha, we must be tripping. That Mad Dipper must have been conned into helping them just like Zhuo Fan did with Dugu Zhantian. There's absolutely no way, not in a million years for him to be on their side." Then again, seeing how the punk's methods were quite all-encompassing, the kid could practically turn everyone into his backers. Sighing, the crowd's opinion of Zhuo Fan jumped again and again. And that went for everyone there, from no-name clans, to the 7 house lords. Since having a backer and joining them were totally different things. A backer was good as a makeshift safeguard, but by joining the clan wholly, the man could both defend and attack in need, turning the clan into a force to be reckoned with. Zhuo Fan was great, no doubt, but not even he could pull a peak radiant stage expert to his side, to join a third-rate clan no less. That was simply ludicrous. Long Yifi and the rest shook their heads. We must be overthinking things. If Li Jingtian was their venerable, then the Luo clan was a match for the 7 houses. A truly cruel and delicious irony how everyone was denying the truth staring them dead in their faces. Depending on the viewpoint, of course. "Elderly, what's the meaning of this? You may be friends with the punk, but clan matters come first. You need to address this with utmost severity. Why are you stopping me from taking revenge for my son?" Huangpu Tianyuan raved. Squinting, Li Jingtian laughed, "Ha ha ha, Estate Lord Huangpu, that's exactly right. I of course take the clan's interests into heavy consideration. That is why, as Luo clan's elder, I cannot allow you to touch one hair of our steward." Dong! A bomb went off in all of their heads. They felt their minds swoon after being smacked with a copper bell right in the noggin. Reeling from shock, they looked at Li Jingtian gobsmacked. The Mad Dipper actually joined the Luo clan. And he's just a friggin' elder. As if. Are you high? Did you just get up and quit the prestigious position of a guest venerable over at Regent Estate to become a mere elder for a third-rate clan? Huangpu Tianyuan stammered all this time. Leng Wuchang twirled his beard and asked, Elder Li, why? Humph, isn't it obvious? There was nothing holding me back, no incentive at all. I dumped Regent Estate for the Luo clan because they can give me something you can't. Li Jingtian smiled with pride. Now that definitely got a shocking reaction. The grandiose head of houses was dumped over a tiny clan. That had got to be the joke of the century. Hearing it from anyone else, it would earn a couple of laughs. But it came directly from the source, Mad Dipper himself. A peak radiant stage expert abandoned all those benefits and downshifted to become some elder. Why the hell would he do that if there was nothing in it for him? It begged the question though, what could the Luo clan hold to make Mad Dipper wipe his hands off of the Regent Estate? All eyes were on Zhuo Fan. Everyone knew that only one man was capable of making the old demon switch camps. He definitely had a hand in this. But even then, getting him to change sides was a godlike move. How did he do it? Long Jiu sighed, I knew the kid is an expert at stealing others' foundations. Fortunately, we are a tight-knit house or even our experts would have fallen for his bewitching promises. Unaware as he was that Zhuo Fan wouldn't take them even if they were given for free. Moving past the standard reaction of shock everyone showed today, Li Jingtian turned to the one-armed Zhuo Fan with a heartbroken expression. Taking him into a bear hug, the man spoke solemnly, Steward Zhuo, what are your orders? Zhuo Fan glanced over to the Regent Estate and said, no one from the Regent Estate leaves this place alive. The cold and insipid tone rang into people's ears. The demon is that cruel to go ahead and wipe out all Regent Estate's elders. Mad Dipper was no fool. Doing so was declaring war with the head of the houses. This was not a game. Zhuo Fan was consumed by his hatred and desire for revenge. With Li Jingtian being Regent Estate's venerable once, he should still have some lingering feelings left over for his ex-employer. Now that he was a mere elder, he should think about the clan's needs and not follow the demon steward's ramblings. Li Jingtian simply patted his shoulder and turned to Regent Estate's men with a look that promised death and agony. He was hell-bent on murdering anyone to fulfill Zhuo Fan's design. He's nuts. The entire Luo clan is going along with Zhuo Fan's madness. After a quick sigh of lamentation, everyone scampered off. Noon wanted to be here and suffer a quick death when a radiant stage expert went on a murdering spree. Long Yifi thought about advising against it. But Zhuo Fan and Li Jingtian's determined gazes made him falter. All he could do was follow his clansmen in getting away from here. It was then that Li Jingtian kicked it off with a bang. The power and the pressure were that of a mountain coming down on you. Huangpu Tianyuan and his 30-ish elders group gasped, but found even breathing hard. They couldn't even fight back. This was the power of a peak radiant stage expert. These guys were nothing but ants to Li Jingtian. But then, a boom announced the approach of a man in white, facing off Li Jingtian with a palm attack. Boom! The world felt like it was falling apart as the two palms collided. All anyone could do was duck their heads and cover their ears. Long Yifi and the rest of the profound heaven experts were feeling horrible just the same. They covered their ears and stood up a bit, but if the flowing sweat was any indication, they had to be feeling just as powerless as their neighbors if they were to face these palms instead. Tap! The two withdrew 5 steps. Looking up, the one facing Li Jingtian was none other than Jade Flute Divine Sword, Fang Qiubai. Cupping his hands, Fang Qiubai spoke, Mad Dipper Li Jingtian, your name precedes you. One of the imperial family's 5 divine dragons, Jade Flute Divine Sword Fang Qiubai. I've long since waited for this. One glance is enough to tell me of your uncommon character. But are you certain you want to go head-to-head with me? Li Jingtian smiled, his eyes exploding with bloodthirst. The martial fanatic in him reared its head, fueling his desire to fight. Chapter 337, Stalemate. Chapter 337, Stalemate. Elite Coder. Feng Qiubai waved him off. Brotherly, I would never treat you as an enemy. It is the Emperor's decree, you see, to defend Dragon Cloud City's public order. I was forced to intervene the moment you attacked Regent Estate. I ask that you be sensible and let this matter rest. It would be for the best of both the Regent Estate and Luo clan, wouldn't you say? Li Jingtian's eye twitched, realizing this opponent of his knew his way with words. If the Luo clan and Regent Estate fought it out now, both sides would end up with a disaster. He was at an impasse, however. A glance at Zhuo Fan's cold face and the seething bloodthirst in his eyes made that choice for him. Li Jingtian gnashed his teeth and smirked. Mr. Feng, it's been ages since I met an opponent like yourself. How about we spar a little? Feng Qiubai frowned at Li Jingtian's smile. I forgot, Mad Dipper is a martial fanatic, but he is not an idiot either. So why would he insist on being so reckless? Killing even a single elder of Regent Estate today will set off Regent Estate on the warpath against the Luo clan. The answer was made clear soon enough. Li Jingtian looked back and Zhuo Fan said something to him. It was unimaginable to see the great Mad Dipper actually abiding by a pup's every word. Talking to Li Jingtian now wouldn't change a damn thing, so he had to switch gears and talk it out with Zhuo Fan. Feng Qiubai said, Steward Zhuo, I understand your anger, but this is not the place to settle your grudges. I ask that you do not forsake your clan over a single loss. That had the crowd thrown in a loop. If he wants to persuade someone, he should do that with Li Jingtian. Who is to stop him if he decides otherwise? Then it dawned on them like the sun's morning glow. Oh, Li Jingtian is doing it at Zhuo Fan's orders. Does that mean a word out of him can make Li Jingtian stop? A peak radiant stage expert, Mad Dipper in particular, is actually housebroken? The vassals and the 7 house lords turned to Zhuo Fan to gawk in shock. That's a radiant stage expert we're talking about. These guys are venerables in the 7 houses. One would have to beg for any kind of help. Even the house lords need to watch their words around them. And all they could do is make requests, not order them around. Or the venerable will simply scoff at anybody pleading to them. But here is one peak radiant stage expert who is listening to a kid. Did Li Jingtian mellow out, or are Zhuo Fan's methods far more sinister? Then again, Mad Dipper was called as such for a very good reason. That made the first reason moot and the second one highly plausible. Zhuo Fan was versed with so much knowledge that he could even get Mad Dipper to fall in line. So why is he then just an elder and not a venerable? Venerables, who are on the same status as a patriarch, were above a house lord who could only order elders around. Zhuo Fan, oh Zhuo Fan, you are just a steward, so how can you tell an elder what to do? Long Yifi and the rest sighed watching him. This kid might very well be the greatest steward to have ever walked the earth. It's hard to tell if I should be happy or sad if I had such a capable steward in my clan. Zhuo Fan ignored the chatter and stared back at Feng Qiubai, then turned his head away. Don't care. Feng Qiubai faltered. This punk doesn't know when to quit. Li Jingtian laughed it off, filled with thirst for battle. Mr. Feng, it's hard for me to find such a good opponent like you. I won't be holding back. Please return in kind. I won't be blamed for any unforeseen demise on your part. Brotherly, I feel the need to stress this. Per Emperor's orders, I cannot allow you to rain havoc in Dragon Cloud City. Feng Qiubai saw talking was off the table and the jade flute began to let out sounds. Li Jingtian saw Feng Qiubai getting serious and was overjoyed. He gave a belly laugh, then charged with a dragon roar. Wraith Style's second move, Ghostly Dragon Claw. Roar. Li Jingtian was covered from head to toe in black energy and a claw sprung out. The power it released was intent on tearing a hole in space itself. Feng Qiubai gasped. He let the shock subside and turned serious as well. With the flute in hand, he stabbed at the incoming attack. Profound heaven sword star. Hum. The jade flute was wrapped in a blue wind and turned into a sword, its tip shooting into the sky. The black and blue auras collided, shuddering the hearts of onlookers. Then came the shock wave, turning to dust anything in its path. Fortunately, the people were wise enough to stay clear from the start, lest they be pulverized as well by now. Once all settled down, they watched on slack-jawed. Li Jingtian and Feng Qiubai were staring at each other with grave faces mere 5 meters away from each other. Jade flute divine sword's hand holding the flute trembled. While Li Jingtian's brows shook, far more astounded. His hand was dripping blood on the ground. Elder Li, lost? Luo Yunchang was filled with worry. Zhuo Fan only shook his head, it's no loss, but a stalemate. Neither could overpower the other. The next second, a sharp crack announced the crumbling flute falling to the ground from Feng Qiubai's hand. Feng Qiubai sighed at his loss. Brotherly, this flute has followed me for 50 years. I never thought I'd see it crumble here. Take it as me having lost by a fraction. Li Jingtian smiled, lifting his bloody palm and speaking cheerfully, this iron hand of mine has been with me for 158 years. But today it has come to harm. I have lost in this exchange. The two stared for a second before laughing it up, while respecting each other for the hero the other was in their hearts. Mr. Feng, should we go at it again and settle this stalemate? Li Jingtian spoke while waving his bloody hand. Feng Qiubai looked at the broken flute and nodded, since Brother Li is so courteous, I shall oblige. Marvelous. Li Jingtian laughed and attacked. But then Zhuo Fan said, Elder Li, we'll leave it here today, out of respect for Mr. Feng. We'll just have to settle our grudges with Regent Estate some other time. The people's faces twitched. That's a nice way of putting it. What respect for Mr. Feng? You should have done that from the start if you had any respect for the man. Saying it now when you know fighting won't get you anywhere makes you look like a hypocrite. At least he was far better than those stupid heads knowing only to push ahead regardless. The kid sure is smart, to know when to retreat. Feng Qiubai smiled, then, Brotherly, we will spar again another day. Or your steward might get angry. Li Jingtian sighed with a nod, fine, since Steward Zhuo said so, I don't have a choice but to fight another day. Li Jingtian cupped his hands and walked back to Zhuo Fan. While Feng Qiubai stood there with a heavy frown. He had just taunted Li Jingtian, to see if he was so resolute in following the little demon's words. Not expecting at all that Li Jingtian hadn't even entertained the notion of defying Zhuo Fan's orders, his reply being very calm. As if the Grand Mad Dipper listening to a brat was the norm, not to mention he was devoted to a fault. Zhuo Fan's qualifications as king had now evolved. It wasn't as simple as drawing his peers over to his side, but included the power to rally astonishing people like Li Jingtian under his banner. It only proved the fact that Zhuo Fan was far more worthy to be king than Huangpu Qingtian. Getting Dragon Vein Soul was a mere coincidence. He had the power to become an emperor already, but now it was also decreed by heaven itself. At that moment, Zhuo Fan became the #1 threat for the imperial family in Feng Qiubai's mind. Mr. Feng. Zhuo Fan called with a cryptic smile, you were very quick in stopping Elder Li. You are a true divine dragon. His Majesty made the right choice in sending you to preside over Dragon Cloud City's order. Feng Qiubai's face flushed a bit. No one but him could sense the dripping sarcasm. He's mocking me for not intervening when Huangpu Tianyuan's team attacked him before, but stepping in when Li Jingtian attacked. It was a clear sign that Feng Qiubai wanted Zhuo Fan dead. Keeping Dragon Cloud City's order was merely the best excuse at the moment. He has now taken me into account as a potential enemy. When he had Li Jingtian attack Huangpu Tianyuan, it was all to see my stance. The little demon is too outstanding. Staring at Zhuo's creepy smile, Feng Qiubai sighed. Chapter 338, Declaration of War. Chapter 338, Declaration of War. Elite Coder. On the Luo clan's way back, Zhuo Fan was the picture of calmness. Li Jingtian stuck to him like glue, creating a stifling atmosphere that no one around dared to break and approach. Everyone watched them go in shock, even the house lords. No one had seen it coming. A mere third-rate clan had risen to the ranks of a house the instant Li Jingtian showed up next to them. Nobody present knew a house, except Regent Estate of course, that had someone at the height of power as Li Jingtian had reached, a peak radiant stage expert. Not to mention the said expert could fight divine dragon Feng Qiubai to a draw. This fact only gave the Luo clan even greater importance. From now on, Luo clan wasn't merely at the level of a house, but was right below Regent Estate. Any offense would be met with impunity from Li Jingtian, annihilating their entire clan. Such a thing had never achieved in the past because of the delicate balance of power. This also did not push the other clans into a corner. But now, Yuanshan and the other houses who held a grudge with Zhuo Fan had to reconsider their approach to revenge as the Luo clan had now become the second house under Regent Estate. Luo clan was strong, but only because of Li Jingtian alone. Yet that man was strong enough to shock everyone. Luo clan slowly made their way to their accommodations in Dragon Cloud City. Zhuo Fan had a deathly look on his face that no one disturbed. And in this manner, they walked further and further away. Suddenly, Zhuo Fan stopped and looked at Leng Wuchang with a sinister smile as he shouted, "Sir Leng, I admit my loss this time. But the games have just begun. Let us have a blast next time, ha ha ha." Zhuo Fan's eyes exploded with hatred and coupled with his creepy tone, everyone's hair stood on end. Leng Wuchang's face grew graver than ever. But it only matched Zhuo Fan's bloodthirsty stare. It was Zhuge Changfeng who then said, "Sir Leng, you really kicked the hornet's nest this time, ha ha ha." Zhuge Changfeng then left with his two elders. Leng Wuchang's beard shuddered in rage. The others around him were too scared to make a peep. It was a tangle between big shots, not something they should butt in. Messing with the Regent Estate would get one killed, erasing the body and clan. While pissing off Zhuo Fan, who had tormented half of the 6 dragons, none of the vassals and small clans dared to imagine. Not to mention they had a peak radiant stage expert as cover, bringing them on the same level as the 7 houses. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the 2 houses had sparks flying when their gazes met. Ahehem. People, in all the esoteric debates held over the millennium, the grudges aren't brought back from the competition. If the 2 houses wish to resolve their hatred, please wait for the next esoteric debate. Dugu Zhantian took on an imposing stance and said so. Zhuo Fan only smiled. Leng Wuchang's killing intent never faltered. It was clear as day that no one was buying it. There were no grudges in the past esoteric debates because the 7 houses kept appearances. While this time, Regent Estate killed the one Zhuo Fan cared about the most, Xuaningxiang, and the man toppled their future, along with 3 other dragons. Who the hell would wait 100 years to settle that kind of a bloody score? At least they were wise enough to let the matter slide for now, since Dugu Zhantian said it. Even if there was no verbal confirmation. But then a brash voice resounded, "Regent Estate, listen up. From this very moment, the Luo clan and you are now mortal enemies." The crowd was in complete shock. Luo clan simply got up and broke all pretenses, falling out with the Regent Estate in the open as well as in the dark. What came next was the worst outcome, war. To a clan having only one radiant stage expert, it meant death. People whipped their heads to see who was the ignorant buffoon spouting such words. What came into view was the face of a dignified youth. Luo clan's young master, Luo Yunhai. Long Yaifi, Xie Xiaofeng and grandmother's eyes shrank, giving desperate signals to Zhuo Fan with their eyes. Luo clan going to war meant dragging them into it as well since they were allies. There was no hope for victory at this point. It was understandable for Luo Yunhai to be overcome by rage and make such a declaration. He may be the young master, but Zhuo Fan handled everything in the clan. His words represented the Luo clan's stance. So these three pleaded with Zhuo Fan to think of the bigger picture. The man in question took a long look at Luo Yunhai, then smirked at the rest. What's with those faces? Is there a problem with what our young master said? Humph, the Luo clan has that name for a reason. Young master may not be the official clan head yet, but he represents the Luo clan with every word. From now on, we and the regent estate are at war. As the people went through endless shock, Long Yifi and company were lamenting. No one took Luo Yunhai's words seriously, but all of that changed when Zhuo Fan nailed the matter in. But what's going on with Zhuo Fan? Did he really lose his mind in revenge over a girl? Huangpu Tianyuan was overjoyed. He feared the imperial family would stick its nose in again and stop them from making moves against the Luo clan. But now with the Luo clan declaring war by itself, the imperial family had no grounds to interfere. Windgaze City could no longer save the Luo clan. Ha ha ha, something must be wrong with today's kids, they are so brash and cocky. You think that a single peak radiant stage expert is enough to protect the Luo clan? Hilarious. Huangpu Tianyuan laughed. You may be able to cower the other houses, but you have another thing coming now that you've set yourself against us. Just ask the geezer next to you how strong we are if you don't believe me. You can't match our 1,000-year-old legacy. Zhuo Fan smiled. Are you sure? We'll just have to wait and see. Spinning on his heel, he kept on walking. While Li Jingtian left them with some final words, as a former venerable of yours, let me give you some friendly advice. Think long and hard before touching the Luo clan. Then he turned around and followed after the others. But his words had the intended effect, to stun Huangpu Tianyuan and his elders. As an ex-regent estate venerable, Li Jingtian knew all about its power. Yet even so, he still judged the Luo clan to be a tougher enemy. Does that mean Luo clan is on par with the regent estate? Impossible. How can our 1,000-year legacy be surmounted just like that? Turning to Leng Wuchang, Huangpu Tianyuan found him silent. Luo clan was now wrapped in a thick fog, with no one able to pierce it. This effect had even regent estate feel their previous confidence fading. The swift rise of this clan had left more and more people unable to comprehend them. Dugu Zhantian watched Luo Yunhai's back bitterly. He treated Luo Yunhai as his own son, and the kid always listened to him. But he had just spoken and the first one to reproach him was his own godson. For the sake of the clan, the godfather and godson had to break ties. He never wished for this to happen, but could never stop it. Why must we serve a different master? 6 hours later, the Luo clan returned to Dragon Cloud City and Zhuo Fan slammed the door to his room. Don't bother me. Luo Yunchang saw Zhuo Fan acting odd and was afraid for his sake. She wanted to go to him but Li Jingtian stopped her. Luo Yunchang turned to him puzzled. Li Jingtian shook his head. Young miss, sometimes men need to be alone. Let him be. Her pure eyes shook as Luo Yunchang watched the door and bit her lip before leaving. But then a bestial roar came from beyond Zhuo Fan's door before she managed to leave. Ah! Covering her mouth, Luo Yunchang couldn't fight the tears. She saw Zhuo vent his rage for what was done to Ninger, but only now could he release some of the pain scarring his heart. The wail of agony made her heart bleed. She wanted to comfort him and mend his heart, but Zhuo Fan would rather face it alone. He was never one to open up to anyone, choosing to bear the pain by himself, becoming forever a solitary steward. The pain in Luo Yunchang only grew as her mind wandered. The others sighed, watching over Zhuo Fan's door along with their young miss. Chapter 339, Ninger's Hope. Chapter 339, Ninger's Hope. Elite Coder. The sun fell and rose and yet people stood still outside Zhuo Fan's door. listening to the howling growing hoarse into the night, when they finally stopped. Luo Yuncheng stood with red eyes before the door, with salty tears streaming down her cheeks. Young Miss, Pavilion Lord Long and the others have come. Captain Pang bowed. Luo Yuncheng frowned. They would usually send someone over, not come in person. Why at this time? Luo Yuncheng merely glanced at Elder Li, who had his eyes closed next to her, and she knew, humph, what noble houses. They're all clinging to another's power. Because Li Jingtian's display of power yesterday shocked them all, Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Sword Marquise Abode and Drifting Flowers edifices found the Luo clan to be on the same footing as them, if not higher. That demanded a certain amount of respect. So they lowered themselves by coming in person. Otherwise they wouldn't be caught dead going to a third-rate clan even at Zhuo Fan's urging. Captain Pang, show them in. Luo Yuncheng held her head high, benefiting from their newfound status. Captain Pang bowed, understood. Captain Pang soon arrived with the 3 house lords and their entourage. Luo Yuncheng bent her waist slightly in greeting, House lords, please forgive me for not welcoming you in person. No need, no need. How is Steward Zhuo? Grandmother didn't care at all, only eager to know about his situation. Luo Yuncheng sighed as she glanced at the sealed door, this bothers me as well. He's been cooped up for an entire day while I am here by myself with worry. The 3 house lords were startled. But then saw Mad Dipper guarding the door with closed eyes. The 3 greeted, hello, Elder Li. But Li Jingtian was quite the stuck-up, not even sparing them a wink. The house lords shook their heads, while the ones behind them gasped. Now that's a damn expert right there. He's so cool to act all self-important and rude to even the noble house lords. Yesterday's event was yet to fully sink in. A man of such power was willing to listen to Zhuo Fan's every word. Long Jiu, Long Kuei, and the rest knew Zhuo Fan fairly well, and saw his potential before anyone else. Watching him take decisive steps till today, when he could contest with the powers of Tianyu, left them sighing. Xie Tianshang's eyes were blazing, thirsting for something. As a martial fanatic no less driven than Li Jingtian, he understood that to make someone like them listen to orders, required only one thing, power. The fiendish Mad Dipper following Zhuo Fan's every word showed Zhuo Fan had the power to make him submit. Xie Tianshang's respect for the steward shot through the roof then and there, bordering on worship. The house lords looked at each other, but only grandmother spoke, young Miss Luo, would it be possible to see Steward Zhuo? We have matters to discuss. I'm afraid not. It's best that we wait for him to calm down and rest. I will relay your message when he comes out. Luo Yuncheng glanced at the door with a shake of her head. The 3 frowned. When Zhuo Fan was off doing God knows what, they had no choice but to discuss things with this lass. Now that the man of the house was back, of course they'd only want to see him. Now more than ever, when it concerns the safety of their houses. How could they simply leave it in the hands of a girl? But looking at Mad Dipper, they didn't say anything. With that fiend watching the door, they won't even get to touch it. As the 3 house lords were internally debating, a white figure walked out from behind, Chu Qingcheng. Edifice Lord Chu, what are you doing? Luo Yuncheng frowned seeing her going for the door. Chu Qingcheng rested her dainty hand on it and said, this is between me and him. I ask that young Miss Luo does not interfere. And then she continued walking, to Luo Yuncheng's distress. Luo Yuncheng couldn't stop her, but a thick arm blocked her advance. Li Jingtian's eyes were still closed, but his voice was firm, Steward Zhuo needs rest. Without his explicit approval, you can't go in. Or would you like me to stop you even if I have to pick on the weak? Everyone shivered. None saw it coming. That the great Mad Dipper Li Jingtian would be so heavy-handed with a junior. He was just like a guard to a vault, leaving no room for negotiation. This also proved his loyalty towards Zhuo Fan and earned the others' envy. Just what did Zhuo Fan do to get this fiend on his side? And such a devoted one too. Chu Qingqing didn't push the issue, knowing she was beaten, and shouted instead, "Zhuo Fan, I need to talk to you. Get out and stop hiding like a coward." SSS. Gasps all around. Zhuo Fan wasn't the same person from yesterday, he had an invincible bodyguard. Not to mention he was currently unstable. Getting him pissed off was the last thing on anyone's mind. It was just yesterday when, after getting consumed by rage, he had declared war with the regent estate. He might even attack them if he was angry enough. And none of them could fight off Li Jingtian. If Zhuo Fan gave into his demonic side, there was quite a high possibility of suffering untold cruelty they just bore witness to last month. Nobody wished to be the spark that lit that keg. They were all tense, watching the door nervously. But what they received was total silence. Only 15 minutes later, a hoarse voice came, "Elderly, let them in." "All right." Li Jingtian nodded and withdrew his hand. The people followed Chu Qingqing in to see a shocking situation. Chu Qingqing and Luo Yunchang's eyes went red. A white-haired man sat leaning on the bed, his clothes a mess, his hair thatched, and his eyes red and lifeless. His hand held a censer releasing a pure light. He was and wasn't Zhuo Fan. How did he end up like this though? "Brother Zhuo," Luo Yunhai cried. But Zhuo Fan didn't reply, his dead eyes stared at the floor. After a long time, his muttering came, "Sorry everyone, if you came because of the declaration of war, you can return. Yunhai is young, but he is our future clan head. His words are law. The Luo clan will be fighting regent estate. But it's up to you if you wish to join." Stammering, the house lords knew Zhuo Fan had received a devastating blow to have a mental breakdown. He looked anything but capable of taking decisions. He was like those fanatic people hellbent on revenge, willing to be torn apart as long as they could bite into the enemy's flesh. That's too rash. They saw Zhuo Fan dead and cold like a block of ice. He was a pragmatic and cunning monster devoid of emotion, but look at him now. Now that he was lost to his emotions, he had sacrificed everything and was reduced to this weak state. Intense emotions were cruel, they cut like a sharp blade and reduced even the strongest to an empty husk. Sighing, they shook their heads with regret. But some girls were overwhelmed with affection and pity. This was a true man, one that would risk his all for a woman. But because of the cold demeanor he usually displayed, no one saw what lay buried in his heart. "Steward Zhuo, don't be so down. You can't let emotions cloud your judgment in dealing with the regent estate," grandmother said in all sincerity. Zhuo Fan merely gave a mocking laughter. Chu Qingqing went to him and pulled his hand, "Come with me." No one understood what was happening. Zhuo Fan was the same, but had no mind to care, following her like a walking corpse. They were soon gone from everyone's sight. An hour later, Chu Qingqing brought him to Drifting Flowers Edifice's location in Dragon Cloud City, to her room. Zhuo Fan snorted, "Edifice Lord Chu, why have you brought me here? You don't intend to deepen our feelings, are you?" "I am not in." His voice trailed off as he noticed the girl on the bed. She was fair, young and naive-looking. Xuaningxiang. But she didn't look dead at all, merely sleeping. Ninger's body. How? Zhuo Fan watched closely and she looked just like a sleeping, living person. Frowning, Zhuo Fan noticed the shining jewel in her mouth. Anchoring soul bead. Zhuo Fan cried out in joy, "This Ninger can be saved." Chapter 340, Tease You I Want. Chapter 340, It's You I Want. Elite Coder. 9th grade spiritual weapon anchoring soul bead. It was an astonishing treasure for soul defense never seen before in Tianyu. It was unique. A defensive treasure everyone was willing to die for. When Radiant Stage and above experts fought, the emphasis shifted towards the soul. And with the anchoring soul bead, one's soul was safe and sound. It even had the miraculous ability to simulate one's essence when their soul was gravely damaged. With Xue Ningxiang's essence stolen for 3 days, she had collapsed. It was the strength of her soul that waned, unable to support her consciousness. In fact, her soul had yet to fully scatter back then. If she had the anchoring soul bead then, her life would have been saved. And with the help of some medicine, she would regain her essence to connect with her soul and regain her consciousness. This was the only way to recover. Looking at her sleeping face, it was clear that she was saved in the nick of time. Zhuo Fan was overjoyed. Edifice Lord Chu, then dash. Call me Qingqing. Glaring at him, Chu Qingqing snapped, but then her eyes bloomed with joy. Now you can no longer be depressed. Flushing, Zhuo Fan scratched his pale face awkwardly and switched topics. Right, where did you get the 9th grade spiritual weapon, anchoring soul bead? Was Drifting Flowers Edifices hiding it? Of course. We may not be the strongest of the houses, but our treasury has filled over the last 1,000 of years. Is it that strange? Did you think we only had Bodhi root? Chu Qingqing held her head high like a proud lady. The powerful image left even Zhuo Fan speechless. But Zhuo Fan was unable to see the sorrow hidden in her eyes. Gasping, Zhuo Fan said, now we just have to find some ingredients to heal her mind and Ninger will wake up. Do you know where to find them? Chu Qingqing smiled. Zhuo Fan shook his head and shrugged, but his mind was set. No, but with Ninger's soul affixed, we have the time to look for them. I will even search outside Tianyu's borders if I have to. Chu Qingqing looked at the sleeping Xue Ningxiang with envy. He will do anything for her. But what will he do for me? Chu Qingqing said, Zhuo Fan, what were you trying to say? I want to thank you. Zhuo Fan looked at her oddly. Chu Qingqing smiled, that's it. How are you going to thank me? How do you want me to? Zhuo Fan scratched his white hair clueless. Chu Qingqing grinned, first, close your eyes. Zhuo Fan looked at her oddly, but then he saw the glare in her eyes and closed them on the spot. What's she planning? Chu Qingqing drew near Zhuo Fan and pecked his cheek. Shivering, Zhuo Fan was about to open his eyes but only heard Chu Qingqing's soft voice in his ear, don't look. Zhuo Fan snapped his eyes tighter than before. With a graceful smile, Chu Qingqing rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, hold me. Zhuo Fan's heart thumped, freezing for a moment, but he did embrace her lovely body in the end. Held close to his chest, Chu Qingqing's soft and peaceful voice came, I want to go back to the time we spent in the rundown house in Drifting Flowers City, just the two of us. Zhuo Fan, you are not allowed to think about other girls at this moment, even Ninger. Zhuo Fan shuddered, and bobbed his head without realizing. Thus, the two held each other with closed eyes, as their mind drifted to those peaceful days. After a long time, Chu Qingqing opened her eyes and flicked his forehead with a smile, now you can open them. Zhuo Fan showed a pair of dazed eyes. Upon seeing the perfect beauty in front of him, his heart felt lost. He didn't want to wake up as his hands still held her delicate waist for a long time. Boring holes into him with her eyes, Chu Qingqing giggled, what's wrong? Are you regretting it now? Too late. That's the last time. From now on we are mere associates. Later you will stay with Ninger and I'll lead Drifting Flowers Edifices. We will never cross paths again, lest we be led astray. That's what I want as well, haha, ha. Laughing dryly, Zhuo Fan scratched his head awkwardly. But his heart still had the same sense of loss as before. He wanted to only be cordial with Chu Qingqing, but after her request, he felt unwilling. Men are so despicable. But, since when have I become despicable? Zhuo Fan shook his head. Chu Qingqing said, Zhuo Fan, you should go back. Perhaps, you will soon find the way to save Ninger. Zhuo Fan looked at her puzzled. What's up with her? Being so mysterious all of a sudden. And you need 9th grade ingredients to heal a soul. How can it be so easy? Or is it her way of telling me to shoo off? Probably. Since she dragged me here and also the one to initiate the kiss, kicking me out could only be her as well. Really, unlike men, women make no sense at all. Zhuo Fan shook his head and sighed inside, then, Qingcheng, goodbye. Zhuo Fan walked out. Chu Qingcheng watched him go with glistening tears falling down. Whoosh! A shadow landed behind Chu Qingcheng. Girl, remember our deal. When she wakes up, everyone and everything here will no longer concern you. I know. I'm fine as long as I could see him. Chu Qingcheng bit her lip. The shadow vanished once more. Zhuo Fan was walking down the street, his mind playing Chu Qingcheng's odd words over and over again. Just then, a whisper sounded in his ear, "Kid, if you want to save the girl, come 50 miles south of the city, in the forest." Startled, Zhuo Fan released his divine sense but couldn't sense anything. His discerning field was so strong that he could even detect a radiant stage expert. But how was it that he couldn't find a trace of that voice? What kind of power is that? Recalling Chu Qingcheng's odd behavior, Zhuo Fan still couldn't make sense of it. His only choice was to go south of the city and see for himself. With how strong this man was, not even Li Jingtian could stop him. Since nothing could guarantee his safety, he might as well go and see what tricks were being played on him. 4 hours later, Zhuo Fan arrived. But what he saw were just trees and more trees. Just then, an eerie voice came from behind, "He, you came." Zhuo Fan whipped his head back to see a gray shadow floating and cried, above radiant stage, the ethereal stage. Yes, the ethereal stage. Only this stage allowed one's soul to leave their body. Even if the body died, the soul could linger on. It was a stage attained only by those who cultivated their soul to perfection. The radiant stage employed mere parlor tricks when it came to a soul's power, while only an ethereal stage expert could bring out its full potential. When a soul left the body, its attacks would only be soul-based. And their power was at a level no radiant stage soul could survive. They'd fall the same way as if being killed with intent. One could go as far as to say no radiant stage expert could take even a finger from this shadow. Because his finger would pierce your soul dead. Without a way to focus one's soul to attack, the flesh could be as invincible as you want, but it wouldn't pose the slightest problem for an ethereal stage expert. Even if Huangpu Qingtian, the peak of body cultivation, might have reached the peak of radiant stage, he'd still be a mere ant before an ethereal stage expert. The gap between the two stages was a gaping abyss. It was why many people were stuck at peak radiant stage and were unable to advance. It was also why for the past 1,000 years Tianyu had never had an ethereal stage expert. As one transitioned from body to soul, the quality jumped, and the gulf widened. But Zhuo Fan couldn't understand why an ethereal stage expert would appear here all of a sudden. The shadow cackled knowing his thoughts, Hi, Zhuo Fan, it's you I want. Now let's talk terms. Chapter 341, Please Let Go. Chapter 341, Please Let Go. Elite Coder. Who are you? Zhuo Fan asked the shadow in a cold tone. After another cackle, the shadow's reply was, Hi, where are my manners? I am Demon Scheming sect leader, Xia Wuiyue. One of the Empire's 3 guardian sects, Demon Scheming sect. He had heard of them as protectors of Tianyu from invasions, yet they wouldn't meddle in Tianyu's internal affairs. Not even when Gu Santong brought the imperial family to the brink of annihilation 300 years ago did they interfere. But now, the Demon Scheming sect leader showed himself here to see him of all people. This had him second-guessing. What do you need me for? Hi, didn't I tell you? It's you I want. All that's left to settle is your price. The shadow cackled. Frowning, Zhuo Fan understood. The man wanted him on his side. But why? The sect leaders disdain worldly affairs, so how did he know about him while also willing to travel leagues to get him? The shadow easily picked up on his conundrum. You don't have to be so suspicious. I never knew about you and only came this time to get Tianyu's #1 genius, Wanpu Qingtian. But you, kid, are far better. The genius of the millennium that is rarely seen even in my sect. Who knew there'd be an even more outstanding genius out there? Your presence made me give up on him and choose you instead. Hi, you should be honored. By putting your life on the line and defeating a far greater opponent, you are blessed with the fortune of catching my attention. Humph, how smug. Zhuo Fan snorted. Was there a sect in the mortal domain capable of catching the eye of this grand demonic emperor? He didn't feel a hint of honor even when some sect leader came to see him. It was all in the sect leader's head, thinking he was so great, superfluous. Seeing Zhuo Fan's contempt on his lips, the shadow laughed. Ha, good, great even. I like brash guys like you the most, like a true king. Then let's talk business. In my capacity as demon scheming sect leader, I invite you to join my sect. State your terms, but let's get one thing straight. If there's anything out there I can't have, I'd rather see it destroyed. We're both demonic cultivators, looking out only for ourselves. I understand it perfectly, but there's something I have to finish here before I can leave. The Luo clan. Who knew a demonic cultivator could be so loyal? It won't matter. I'll give you 3 years to settle your affairs and then I will take you with me. It should be enough for you to get everything in order. If there's anything you need, I will help you as much as I can. Xia Wuyue's proposal was quite tempting. It was the same as Luo clan getting the demon scheming sect behind it. Not even the imperial family would dare touch them after that. The situation right now was highly volatile and this sudden arrival of a powerful backer was heaven sent. But the expert negotiator Zhuo Fan didn't let it show and sighed. I'll need time to consider. Xia Wuyue faltered a second. Consider my ass. For my demon scheming sect to have your back is the greatest fortune of your life. You should be damn grateful. What's with that long face? As if you're the one losing. Noticing him playing the loser, Xia Wuyue's mouth twitched. If you were back in the sect, any elder that would have spoken to him like that would receive a beating to make them forget where they were. Hadn't he dumped those 4 pricks in Thunder Swarm Mountain just the same? But when facing Zhuo Fan's cunning nature, he both loved and hated it. He had looked down on Zhuo Fan as if he didn't have a scheming bone in his back, but at this point, he had accepted him without question. Ha, fine. I like your greed. The stronger you are, the greedier you can be. What I said just now was a welcoming gift to the sect, not a term. Now, speak what you want. Zhuo Fan smiled, don't you know already? Save that girl. Xia Wuyue laughed, Zhuo Fan, I know you're vile and insidious from how sinisterly you tormented Huangpu Qingtian and the other 3. Who knew you still had a soft spot? But I hope you won't enter the sect with such a weakness. We, demonic cultivators, are dead the instant we let emotions take hold. I don't want to destroy you, nor see the sect fall. Have I made myself clear? Xia Wuyue treated him with ridicule at first, but as they talked, he grew colder, finishing with a warning. Zhuo Fan knew it to be a rule of the sect, to not get attached. He nodded and said, I know it far better than you do. This will be the first and last time. All right then. Whoosh. With a pop, a bright pill shot for Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan caught it and looked at it in shock. 9th grade pill, soul returning pill. Indeed. You have good eyes. I wasn't wrong about you. Xia Wuyue continued, the soul returning pill can heal wounds of the soul, strengthen the essence and protect the mind. To an ethereal stage cultivator, it is like a second life, very sought after. Even I have only 1 pill of this kind. But I will give it to you in good faith. I hope that you will live up to my expectations and return this investment. The shadow was gone with these last words, leaving Zhuo Fan staring at the shiny pill as hope burned in his eyes. Taking a deep breath, Zhuo Fan clenched the pill and ran for Drifting Flowers edifices. The disciples there watched in shock as he stormed into Chu Qingqing's chamber. What, you already found a way to save Ninger? Chu Qingqing said, seeing Zhuo Fan gasping. Zhuo Fan frowned. Did you know Xia Wuyue would come for me? Who's that? Chu Qingqing's eyes trembled. Zhuo Fan's eyes searched her face for any clues. Xia Wuyue is the demon's scheming sect leader. You don't know him? Then why were you so sure I'd have a way to save Ninger? Someone told me without leaving their name. So don't ask. Chu Qingqing smiled. All that matters is that Ninger will be saved. Right? Sizing her for a while, Zhuo Fan nodded. You're right. As long as Ninger lives, I'd even sell my body, ha ha ha. Laughing, Zhuo Fan went to Xuaningxiang on the bed. He took the anchoring soul bead out, then returned her essence before feeding her the soul-returning pill. Ripples passed all over Ninger's body and the spiritual energy also gathered within her in waves, reshaping her soul. Zhuo Fan sighed, gratified Ninger would be all right soon. Yet in his moment of joy, he didn't notice Chu Qingqing staring at him with deep yearning. Qingqing, send someone for Ninger's clan. She'll soon wake up and would like to see her family. Zhuo Fan said but never looked away from Xuaningxiang. Chu Qingqing found it difficult to swallow the bitterness as she nodded, all right. I'll send someone now. You are so thoughtful. Those words contained deep sarcasm as well, but they shot way over Zhuo Fan's head, deeply moved by Xuaningxiang's recovery as he was. He only nodded and a wide smile spread to his ears. Chu Qingqing sighed. 15 minutes later, the Shui clan came as well as Xie Tianyang looking distressed. Everyone looked at Ninger with tears flowing. They had heard of the possibility of saving Ninger, but no one believed it. How could one come back after losing their essence? When Chu Qingqing said she had to take her body, they didn't refuse, thinking all would be for naught. But here she was, dead for a month now, yet coming back to the living. Everyone was overjoyed. Ninger was their darling. Her survival was their greatest joy. Zhuo Fan was also overcome with emotion for the first time in his 2 lives and a genuine smile formed on his lips. Shui Dingtian turned to him and said after hesitating, Steward Zhuo, may I have a word with you? Zhuo Fan didn't understand. But he followed after Ninger's grandfather. The two only got 10 meters from the room, when Shui Dingtian kneeled before Zhuo Fan, his tears flowing in rivers. Steward Zhuo, please let go. Zhuo Fan was stunned and baffled seeing the old man do this. What does he mean? Chapter 342, Severing Emotion for Supremacy. Chapter 342, Severing Emotion for Supremacy. Elite Coder. Elder Shui, why? Zhuo Fan began. Shui Dingtian kowtowed in tears, Steward Zhuo, you are a man of great ambition while we are simply a poor simple clan. Ninger is also still ignorant to the cruelty of this word and is unable to survive your battles. I know it disgraces Steward Zhuo's act of mercy in saving Ninger by doing this, but none of us wish to see her go through it again. I beg Steward Zhuo to help me. Shui Dingtian kneeled there and shuddered, before a shocked Zhuo Fan. The Shui clan didn't want Ninger to be involved with Zhuo Fan any longer and were begging him to let her go. But was it that easy for his heart to accept? Ninger's awake. Xie Tianyang's cry of joy came from inside. Zhuo Fan woke up and rushed inside, ignoring the kneeling old man. Shui Dingtian wiped his tears and came as well. But what they witnessed wasn't a face filled with joy, but one filled with doubt. Xuaningxiang rubbed her eyes, looking over each of them. Who are you? Who am I? Where am I? They all cried in shock. What's wrong with Ninger? Did her soul not mend completely? A mental scar. Zhuo Fan shook his head. People, don't be nervous. Ninger had a damaged soul and recovering is the same as being born anew. It is normal for her to forget everything. But as her essence was the original one, she will be the same Ninger we all know. She won't change. The people understood. Ninger had lost her memories after that ordeal. But that was for the best. Forgetting such dreadful memories was a blessing for the kind and pure Ninger. Everything was fine as long as Ninger was back to her bubbly and naive self. They'd just have to get reacquainted. Ninger, I am your dad. Xue Wanlong cried. Ninger, I'm your grandfather. Xue Dingtian approached with shaking hands. Ninger, I am your elder brother, Xue Gang. Ninger, I am your second brother, Xue Lin. Everyone circled around Xue Ningxiang to introduce themselves. Xia Tianyang even straightened his hairdo and put on a weird smile before jumping in front of Xue Ningxiang. Ninger, do you remember me? I'm your husband. They all went quiet. Zhuo Fan came over looking glum as he said, Xia Tianyang, are you trying to take advantage of this chance and get close to Ninger now that she has lost her memories? I'll give you a thrashing. Xia Tianyang rubbed his head, ha ha ha, Ninger don't mind it. It was only a joke. Actually, I am your childhood sweetheart and fiancé. Xia Tianyang proceeded with his shamelessness. Everyone rolled their eyes. Zhuo Fan's fist crackled, Xia Tianyang, get the hell out. I promise not to kill you, much. Xia Tianyang glared at him but then closed his mouth. He was crystal clear that there was no chance of beating Zhuo Fan. Ha ha ha, coward. Seeing his sullen face, Ninger giggled as she showed a bright smile. Xia Tianyang wasn't about to accept it. Who called me a coward? I can't beat him, but for you, I will still fight him. Xia Tianyang rolled up his sleeves and went with Zhuo Fan outside to start the duel. Xue Ningxiang waved, wait, why are you picking a fight if you can't win? Please don't take my joke to heart. I didn't mean it. I don't want to see you hurt over something so meaningless. Ninger, you're still the same. You may have forgotten me, but you're so kind and caring. I'm relieved. Xia Tianyang sighed. The rest nodded. Ninger didn't remember them but she hadn't changed at all. Xue Ningxiang turned to Zhuo Fan standing farther back with a bewildered look, who are you? Do you know me? They all rushed to introduce themselves, but why aren't you saying anything? Whoosh. Everyone looked at Zhuo Fan with complicated looks. Zhuo Fan's eyes trembled. Seeing her sincere face and then recalling Xue Dingtian's pleading, he smiled, ha ha ha, me? I'm a bad guy. Ah! Xue Ningxiang jerked in fear. Looking at the crystal clear eyes, unmarred by the ugliness of the world, Zhuo Fan grinned. He knew he had made the right choice and said, I eat people and even hurt you. Why did you hurt me? Ninger trembled. She ducked behind Xue Dingtian, peeking at the white-haired Zhuo Fan like a startled kitty. Zhuo Fan looked at her with tenderness, but his mouth said, bad men hurt people. Do I even need a reason? So miss, for your own sake, you should stay far away from me. Zhuo Fan then walked outside sighing. Goodbye, Ninger. They watched his solitary figure leave, filled with admiration. He was a true hero to own up to his actions and make prompt decisions. They didn't want Ninger to be by his side and suffer. But they had to admit, Zhuo Fan was a reliable man. Xue Ningxiang saw him go and for some odd reason she felt pain in her chest. Why does my heart ache when I see this bad man? Hey, bad men only know how to cause pain, Ninger. Just forget it. Xia Tianyang gave a rushed explanation. This was for the best. With Zhuo Fan letting her go, Ninger could now return to living a normal life. If the two got close again, Xia Tianyang wasn't afraid of being smacked around, but he could never stand for Ninger being used again and turning expendable simply to constrict Zhuo Fan. Xue Ningxiang nodded, the passing Zhuo Fan already forgotten as she laughed along with her relatives. Zhuo Fan stood outside and listened to the laughter. He closed his eyes, neither happy nor sad. This is, for the best. An hour later, Xia Tianyang came out of the room and sighed at the bleak figure. Thank you. What thanks? We had the same intentions, right? Zhuo Fan looked ahead as he said. Nodding, Xia Tianyang walked before Zhuo Fan and placed 2 items in his hand. Zhuo Fan trembled. Sighing, Xia Tianyang looked downcast. Forgive me. I shouldn't do this to a brother, but Ninger. You want to break all ties with me? The 2 thunder rings shook in his trembling hand. Nodding, Xia Tianyang sighed. We are cut from a different cloth than you. You want to fight for supremacy in this world, while we merely drag along with our meager existence. We do not want glory, nor do we want you to disturb our peaceful life. I have spoken with the Shui clan. Tomorrow, I will take them to a remote place in the mountains and never come down. I no longer want to be Sword Marquis Abode's second young master. Few are like you, to sacrifice so much for another. Tightening his hand, Zhuo Fan said evenly, I hope you live a happy and peaceful life. I wish you the same, for one day to lord over all and be remembered for eternity. Grinning, Xia Tianyang said, All right, let me give one last hug to the man who I shared life and death with. After we part here, we will become total strangers. Xia Tianyang squeezed Zhuo Fan into a bear hug as Zhuo Fan just stood there. Xia Tianyang then returned back into the room. Neither looked at each other, with all ties broken. Zhuo Fan, did Xia Tianyang give you the rings? Chu Qingqing asked. Nodding, Zhuo Fan looked at the flickering thunder rings in his palm with pain. Qingqing, you were right. A cold and heartless man like me doesn't deserve a woman's love nor to have a sworn brother. I am destined for loneliness. No. Chu Qingqing was about to explain, but Zhuo Fan tightened his fist and threw the rings as his gaze steeled. From this moment on, my eyes shall only have the world in sight. Zhuo Fan walked home, his eyes no longer hesitant. Chu Qingqing saw where the rings fell and sighed seeing Zhuo Fan's cold back. Did you know, you're not at all lonely. Chu Qingqing flew towards the rings. Chapter 343, The Grand Scheme of Things. Chapter 343, The Grand Scheme of Things. Elite Coder. Zhuo Fan returned to the Luo clan in the evening. The whole day had passed yet grandmother and her other 2 allies remained, waiting for his return. Seeing them, Zhuo Fan washed away any dejection he had and cupped his hands. House lords, I had some matters to tend to. But we can talk now since they are over. Everyone looked amazed. The Zhuo Fan, Chu Qingqing dragged away with her and the one that had returned were totally different. He was back to his swift and decisive self, without a hint of grief. What's going on? What did Chu Qingqing do to get him back? The Luo clansmen saw him looking thin, but his bright eyes let them know that he had pushed through the haze. They were overjoyed. Luo Yunchang especially. She didn't get along with Chu Qingqing, but she was at least grateful the woman got her Zhuo Fan back to his normal self. Zhuo Fan, why you had me worried sick. Luo Yunchang came to him in tears. Zhuo Fan smiled, it's all in the past. Zhuo Fan turned to the 3 houses. People, I know what's on your mind. You fear that our declaration of war was impulsive and would ruin everything. But I will tell you that the faster we dispense with this charade with Regent Estate, the faster we can grow. They were all startled. The 7 houses were at peace until now, all because of pretense. But once the war broke out, the dead would pile up just like they did 1,000 years ago. Their houses were in danger of annihilation. How were they going to grow after that? Zhuo Fan had a cryptic smile in reply to their thoughts. In fact, the world hasn't really changed. War and peace shift places just like yin and yang. War does not mean the absence of peace or suffering. It all moves according to the bigger picture. The situation will change after the esoteric debate. You need to consider what happened in the esoteric debate, and the changes in our enemies. The best choice right now is to fight Regent Estate. They all entered deep thought, mulling over his words. Then, the three house lords' eyes brightened and they nodded. I see. Steward Zhuo wants to turn it into a three-way confrontation. But, where do we find the power to fight Regent Estate to a draw? Grandmother asked. Zhuo Fan smiled, do you remember my words? In 10 years, you will see a brand new Luo clan. But I no longer need those years as I can show you a powerful ally in the form of the Luo clan already. Don't worry, we will restrict the Regent Estate without a doubt. The House Lords found it hard to believe Zhuo Fan's bold proclamations. He just said that the Luo clan had the power to challenge Regent Estate, alone. But how? 8 years couldn't compare to 1,000 years legacy. It was normal for Zhuo Fan to create miracles, but to grow a clan to such a height so fast was impossible. But when they looked at Li Jingtian, they fell quiet. Was there something he couldn't do after he turned a peak radiant stage expert into an elder? They had now changed their thinking and were looking forward to seeing how big of a shock would the Luo clan give, the next time they appeared along with their entire might. The three house lords sighed. Zhuo Fan is truly astonishing. Ha ha ha, since Steward Zhuo is certain of success, we will make preparations and move according to your instructions. I have to admit, when I saw Steward Zhuo taken over by rage, I never expected you'd still be capable of deep thinking. I am in awe. Grandmother praised. Zhuo Fan returned her gesture, grandmother exaggerates. The three houses took their leave. Besides the three house lords, everyone else was in the dark about what just happened. Father, why didn't I understand a thing you guys talked about? Long Xingyun asked. Long Yifi smiled as he lifted his head in pride, boy, this concerns the grand scheme of things. If you could understand it, you'd have been the next house lord by now. Long Xingyun was shocked, it contained such profound topics. That means Zhuo Fan could understand it while we had to be reminded. Won't that mean? Zhuo Fan is a truly rare genius. I can't help but wonder where he comes from. Such a young lad with such a wide gaze that not even we can match. No wonder Leng Wuchang fell for his handiwork. Long Yifi sighed in amazement. Long Xingyun had admiration as well. They were peers, yet Zhuo Fan was far stronger than any of them. After the houses left, Luo Yunhai asked, Brother Zhuo, I made the declaration of war yesterday. I was overcome by anger from their insidious nature in dealing with you. But I had never imagined it would have so many implications. Ha ha ha, if you knew, you'd already be clan head. Zhuo Fan then turned serious, Yunhai, following Dugu Zhantian has sharpened your senses and familiarized you with war tactics, all for this day. But this has only made you a talented general and not good enough to take on the clan's burdens. This is the perfect chance to teach you a monarch's methods and the way to infer the bigger picture from small events. Luo Yunhai was serious as he nodded in glee. It was the first time Zhuo Fan was going to teach him in person. The others looked lost. The past Zhuo Fan would cook up the plans and then send others to do the dirty work. Like he did with Luo Yunhai's education, leaving it in another's hands. Now that he was going to involve himself in teaching the young clan head, everyone was excited. Zhuo Fan was known for his treachery and even played Leng Wuchang, the unwanted contriver, like a fiddle. His teachings couldn't be average. How were they supposed to know that Zhuo Fan had struck a deal with Xie Wuyue for 3 years? If he didn't get Luo Yunhai to mature fast enough, the instant he left, Luo clan would be met with disaster. It was the same as sending them to the slaughter. How could he leave with a peace of mind? So, he sped things up a little. Yunhai, do you know who our former allies, backers and enemies were? Zhuo Fan asked. Luo Yunhai considered, the allies were Drifting Flowers Edifices, Sword Marquis Abode and Veiled Dragon Pavilion. The backers are the Imperial Family and Marshal Dugu. While the enemies are Regent Estate and the rest of the houses. And now? Zhuo Fan followed. Luo Yunhai's eyes flashed with uncertainty. Now, isn't it the same? No, it changed. Zhuo Fan turned serious. Yunhai, you have to keep in mind that every man looks after himself. Allies and enemies are all but fleeting. The one true reason that connects everyone together in this tangled web is interest. Yin and yang switch places, they suppress each other, then switch again. The same transformation happens with enemies and allies alike. If you understand the grand design, you will never fail. This is the way of inferring the big picture from the events around us. To become a clan head, you must also grasp it. Luo Yunhai gasped and nodded. Then, let us begin. Zhuo Fan said, speaking of the esoteric debate this time, Marshal Dugu and the imperial family were our backers before it started. Because our interests aligned, to fight Regent Estate. But after the esoteric debate, through luck or otherwise, I received the dragon's soul, becoming the imperial family's enemy. No imperial family would allow those bearing the dragon vein soul, and heaven's blessing, swagger their way through the nation and shake its foundations. Thus our enemies changed. Feng Qiubai and Marshal Dugu's loyalties lie with the imperial family. They were friendly before but have now shifted to neutrality, with a high chance of becoming enemies at any given moment. We can't overlook them. Luo Yunhai never imagined that in just 2 short days his cherished godfather would become his enemy. It was too much to bear. Regardless of his inner turmoil, Zhuo Fan's platitude prattled on. As for the Regent Estate, they remain our enemies. But now we have the right to become their enemies as well. Because we lost the imperial family's support, the Regent Estate can come at us whenever they want and stomp us into the ground. Of course, we do not need to fear them. But once the war starts, both clans will incur heavy losses and neither wants to let another faction reap from their misfortune. For this reason, we declared war on them, and now all that remains is to think of a way to let them bask in our power. They are no fools and know a war would bring too many losses, so they will refrain from engaging in it. This way, we restrict each other. While the Emperor will take notice of our power as well and won't intervene either, lest he'd like to let the Regent Estate pick us both off. This way, we become one of the 3 major players in Tianyu, with neither side winning or losing. The court, including Zhuge Changfeng, Dugu Zhantian and the Emperor, has already been one such player, bringing balance to the equation. This would keep us safe for a while. All that's left is to wait for a blind schmuck to lift the deadlock, and then we would come down hard to reap the world for ourselves. Everyone was slack-jawed. They never imagined that Zhuo Fan had such a comprehensive understanding of the powers that be and even had the same objective as the Regent Estate, the world. This had never happened in the history of the Luo clan. They were a mere third-rate clan with petty ambitions, wanting nothing more than to go down at peace. Zhuo Fan laughed at their thoughts. Ha ha ha, in this world, the weak will be pushed around while the strong fight for greed. There's no such thing as a man or clan of integrity in this world. If you want peaceful days, then get strong until no one can ever catch up to you. I do not want to see those around me suffer the same disaster as Ninger. Zhuo Fan sighed. They hesitated, but soon determination shined in their eyes. Isn't it merely stealing the world? With you, Steward Zhuo, it's a done deal. As their power grew, Zhuo Fan made sure to bring the Luo clan's ambition to a more appropriate level. Chapter 344, Resolute. Chapter 344, Resolute. After Zhuo Fan's analysis, the Luo clan now understood what to do next. Luo Yunhai was feeling hurt, but the light in his eyes grew stauncher. At dawn break, people left Dragon Cloud City. The esoteric debate this time was particularly cruel and devastating, but no one expected for a clan to rise after 1,000 years and kill its way to the same footing as the 7 houses. Luo clan's legend spread like wildfire throughout the Tianyu Empire. Luo clan and its allies said their goodbyes at the gates, then went home. Luo clan was getting ready for its big reveal into the limelight, to fight on equal footing with the true powers. Their allies had already invited their venerables to fight alongside the Luo clan. Now that they were in the same boat, they had one course of action. Because when the Luo clan fell, Regent Estate would turn to them. They were backed into a corner. Why else would they accept following this madman after finding out that Zhuo Fan had just become the imperial family's enemy number one? Now they will go along for the ride called Zhuo Fan. They will thrive and fall together. Neither one could abandon the other. Dugu Zhantian patted Luo Yunhai's shoulder with a hard face. Yunhai, won't you join your godfather in battle instead? Godfather, you still have the other four to help you, but I am the Luo clan's only heir. I can only go with my clan. Please forgive me, godfather. Luo Yunhai nodded. Dugu Zhantian sighed. All right, Yunhai, you've grown and are responsible now. A true soldier from my army. Godfather, Luo Yunhai interrupted, thank you for your guidance these past 5 years. If the day ever comes when we cross swords, I ask that Godfather shows no mercy, as neither shall I. The 4 tigers of Tianyu jerked. Why was their younger brother being so heartless? But Dugu Zhantian's eyes shrank and he sighed, it seems you already know the situation. That brat must have told you. But he is he and you are you. As long as the Luo clan has him. Godfather, without him there wouldn't be a Luo clan, nor the relation we have today. You have taught me loyalty, so how could I betray him? Moreover, he is the pillar of the Luo clan. A man does not clip his own wings, so how can I, a warrior, make the folly of cutting off my arms? Dugu Zhantian nodded and laughed, you are indeed my godson, both righteous and loyal. It will be my pride and joy to meet you on the field. Dugu Zhantian smiled and turned, Yunhai, we may be on opposite sides, but our bond will never change. Take care, godfather. Luo Yunhai watched the imposing back and banged his head on the pavement 3 times. As for the 4 tigers, they were totally lost. What is going on? Why are they suddenly saying goodbyes? Not far, Chu Qingcheng had Luo Yunchang called to the side, young Miss Luo, Zhuo Fan will be in your care. That has never changed. What, should he be in your care? Luo Yunchang pouted, showing her hostility. She had no clue what Chu Qingcheng did to get him out of his shell but was still grateful. That didn't mean she was about to step back from fighting over her man. Chu Qingcheng smiled, I mean that you should take great care of his heart. Help him understand this world. He isn't alone. Chu Qingcheng then pushed a flickering ring into her hand and left. Luo Yunchang was shocked. It was a thunder ring like Zhuo Fan was wearing. How did she get it? Zhuo Fan only made 3, with 2 given to Xuaningxiang and Xia Tianyang. Does that mean there was a 4th? And given to Chu Qingcheng? Why didn't I get one? Luo Yunchang was annoyed as she ran to Zhuo Fan. She showed the thunder ring and snapped, Zhuo Fan, what's the meaning of this? Are you giving everyone gifts now? What about me? Where did you get this ring? Zhuo Fan squinted in a cold tone. Luo Yunchang let out a shrill cry from fright. Then she lowered her head and mumbled, Edifice Lord Chu just gave it to me. Saying I need to look after you. Throw it away. Zhuo Fan cut her off, Ninger and Xia Tianyang have broken ties with me. I don't need these baubles anymore. Zhuo Fan set out with the rest of the Luo clan. Captain Pang rushed to Luo Yunchang as her guard. Trembling, Luo Yunchang now understood Chu Qingcheng's meaning. Xia Tianyang and Ninger broke it off with Zhuo Fan. She knew how close the 3 of them were. For a lone wolf like Zhuo Fan, it was a rare friendship. But now the 2 had left him and he had truly become alone. Luo Yunchang looked at the thunder ring and put it on as the light in her eyes changed. In a lush forest, a black-clothed man looked towards the leaving Luo clan in the distance with a savage glint. Upon closer look, one would recognize him to belong to Hell Valley. Wretched Luo clan, you actually have a peak radiant expert. At this rate, we will never be able to deal with them, the fifth elder gnashed his teeth. Yuanshan's eyes were cold. Fifth elder, don't let anger get to you. Even without Li Jingtian, Zhuo Fan still wasn't one we could handle. Have you forgotten? He actually bit Huangpu Qingtian to death. Yes, with the Luo clan having Zhuo Fan, a cunning mind like Lin Wuchang, and a powerful expert to protect them, they have reached our level, a true colossus. Hell Valley alone can no longer contend with them. Even worse, if we don't handle it right, we will be eaten whole and our house razed. Just then, another black robe fluttered over, but the owner had a young voice. Compared to all the old guys here, it made quite an odd contrast. Fifth elder mocked, "You Ming, you're becoming more and more cocky. You dare interrupt an elder?" The cowl was removed and it revealed a youth with a grave face, Yu Giki's disciple, Yu Ming. Just that he had lost his cowardly nature and had gotten bolder instead. He looked at the elders and house lord without the slightest reaction. Yuan Shan gave him a hard look, then smiled, "Grand elder, you raised the kid well. He's starting to look like the seventh elder." Ha ha ha, Valley Lord is exaggerating. He was the seventh elder's disciple to begin with. I only gave him tips. It was a good decision to not let him join the esoteric debate, or he would have been another unmarked grave at the hands of that monster. Then Hell Valley would have truly lost all hope. Recalling the dreadful way Zhuo Fan dealt with Huangpu Qingtian, even Grand Elder shuddered. Ever since the seventh elder's passing, all our actions have been a mess. We've suffered greatly and even ended up being used. I hope Yu Ming can assume seventh elder's duty and assist Valley Lord in making the house thrive. As for past grievances, haha, it's best we don't mention them. Yes, Zhuo Fan is too much of a menace. Not even that old fox Lin Wuchang could handle him. Now that he has spread his wings, it will be even harder. We'd best rethink our options and take a step back. Yu Ming approved. Yuan Shan was pensive for a while before nodding. Thinking back, ever since they came upon Zhuo Fan, everything went south. With Zhuo Fan of today reaching such power, they would lose even more going against him. Yuan Shan turned to Yu Ming, "Do you have a plan?" "Valley Lord, Master once said that all machinations are revealed when looking from the outside. With the Regent estate and Luo clan at war, it's best for us to stay clear and think of another course of action." "And that would be?" Yuan Shan asked. Grinning, Yu Ming continued, "Zhuo Fan and Lin Wuchang are treacherous men, each with his own devices. We won't be a match for either of them even if we join. The best choice will be to play for the future." "Future?" Yuan Shan asked, as did the rest. "Correct. Our goal is in the imperial capital." Yu Ming spoke with confidence. As they talked, they were completely oblivious to the fact that every action the houses took in Dragon Cloud City was in plain sight to two gray shadows. He, Xie Wuyue, Tianyu is becoming more chaotic by the day. Not only the seven houses are fighting amongst each other, even the four pillars and imperial family are about to step in. "Can your kid survive among these errant armies?" An aged voice mocked the other shadow. The only response he got was a sinister laughter. Hi, my affairs have nothing to do with geezers like you." "He caught my eye and I'm sure he won't fail me. After 3 years, I'll return and you will face humiliation." "Oh, are you that confident? The other sect's monsters aren't any weaker, you know." "Humph, a 9th grade pill for a single man. You think I'd take that gamble without some assurance? What about you then? You lent that anchoring soul bead and cheated a lady. Compared to us demonic cultivators, you, a righteous sect leader, is far more despicable." Hi, Xie Wuyue laughed. The shadow snapped, "Xie Wuyue, if it wasn't for me giving the anchoring soul bead to maintain the girl's soul, your pill wouldn't have worked. How then would you have gotten that crafty brat?" "Humph, We merely cooperated and got what we wanted. What's despicable about that? True, both of us got what we wanted. But this is where our partnership ends. The next time we see each other, I won't hold back. That goes without saying. You think you and your disciples will win? Humph. The other shadow vanished with a snort. Xia Wuyue cackled, before Zhuo Fan, perhaps not. But the kid will join my sect and I guarantee you will even lose your shirt, hi hi hi. Chapter 345, Master and Disciple Reunion. Chapter 345, Master and Disciple Reunion. Elite Coder. 3 months later, the Luo clan finally arrived home, to Windgaze City. As the Blackwind Mountain appeared in view, Zhuo Fan's heart called to it in longing after 5 years of separation. He had gone through ecstatic and despair-filled moments during this time. And now that he had returned, he felt even more attached to this place. The word family or clan had been etched deeper into his heart. Absence only made the heart grow fonder. Steward Zhuo, let me open the array and give you a proper welcome. Standing before Blackwind Mountain enveloped in thick mist, Li Jingtian laughed. Zhuo Fan waved him off with a hint of smile, no need. I'll do it myself. 5 years have gone by and I want to open the door myself. Li Jingtian nodded, while others watched him with warmth. Yan Fu, come. The kid had been traveling along with the Luo clan, and under constant pressure from Li Jingtian's valiant aura, he had been left a shivering mess. Yan Fu rushed before Zhuo Fan with even more respect. Steward Zhuo, orders. Nothing of that sort. You will soon meet Elder Yan, Master and Disciple will be reunited at last. And you will become one of us now. So I will now teach you how to open the array. Watch closely. Yan Fu was excited. He will finally get to see his master, something that had only happened in his dreams so far. His heart was overwhelmed and he nodded instantly. Under his dazed gaze, Zhuo Fan's hand made a sign and he shouted, open. The fog parted in the form of a path up Blackwind Mountain. Zhuo Fan turned with a smile, Yan Fu, this will be your home from now on. You and your master. Boom. The reverberating explosion cut Zhuo Fan's speech short. A gale kicking up dust slammed them right in the face and covered the foremost two in dust and grime. And then came the shrieks. Hi hi hi, old hag, old geezer, who do you think you are, Zhuo Fan or Li Jingtian, to dare mess with us 4 scheming demons? You can't handle us. See how us 4 will blast you to pieces. Violent Demon's familiar sneer came to Zhuo Fan, then the cheers from the other 3 demons, yep, you two know nothing of how to stop us. There's nothing you can do to us. Zhuo Fan's mouth twitched, and his fist clenched. These little shits won't sit still for a second. They completely ruined one of my rare good moods. The rest sighed and felt vexed. Elder Li brought these 4 scheming demons 5 years back as new elders. Everyone was happy, at first. And then they got to know these pygmies just a bit better. They were outrageous, squabbling and powerful, of course, but they were nothing more than bickering children. A menace every 3rd day and a disaster every 5th. These guys almost had the entire Blackwind Mountain run into the ground with their toying. Even after Li Jingtian's heavy-handed punishment, it only took a day after his departure for them to start cursing him, and the 2nd day for their demonic minds to cook up new mischief. Everyone knew this was Li Jingtian cheating the 4 into thinking that he knew the way to control the bloodworms and make them fall in line. Or hell would have broken loose. Steward Zhuo, Yan Fu pointed at Blackwind Mountain with a sunken face, as if to say, why is this home of yours not one bit peaceful? Waving him off, Zhuo Fan laughed in anger, calm down, I will handle it. Just ignore the little shits. Steward Zhuo, I'll go set the 4 shits straight. Li Jingtian ran over. Zhuo Fan waved him off with a dark face, no need. I'll do it. Zhuo Fan stepped forward and the rest followed. Li Jingtian was snickering inside. Those four twerps will finally get what's coming for them. They all reached the peak to see holes everywhere and even the gate blown outward and slanted. No doubt about it, those four shits were responsible for all this. All this while the sound of explosions kept on coming from within. Shui Qingjian raved like an insane hag. Ah! You damn bastards dare break my 1,000-year-old mirror. I'll kill you. Hi, Biddy, what are you doing with a mirror when you're so old? We did you a favor. Sly Demon poked where it hurt with his mocking laughter. Shui Qingjian grew enraged in her howls. Bastards, thieves. I'll have your heads today. Qingjian, stop wasting time with them and use life and death art. Qiu Yanhai's own raving voice came. Li Jingtian paled. Him and the two had sparred quite often and he knew of the power behind that art. It could blast 10 radiant stage experts into dust on the spot. All he could do was turn tail. With the two using life and death art on the four demons, they'd blow Blackwind Mountain sky high. Li Jingtian rushed. Steward Zhua, I'll stop them. No need. A vein popped on Zhua Fan's forehead as his finger trembled. Those four demons were wrong in the head from the start. There's no point arguing with them. But were these two so quick to lose themselves? Humph, they need to be taught a lesson. Zhua Fan's hand signal changed and four blissful heartrending wails came from within, music to the ears of every Luo clansman. What's going on? My belly hadn't heard in 5 years. What's with the sudden cramp? Violent Demon rolled around, followed by 5 others. I know, it's the bloodworms. That damn Li Jingtian is back. Sly Demon cried. Shui Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai collapsed as they cursed. Dumbass, you still don't know that the old man conned you? He is a victim too and doesn't know how to use the bloodworms. Or you'd think all the chaos you caused 5 years ago would only result in some scolding. What, he played us? Violent Demon roared, bloody bastard. That old foggy dares to play the demonic hero quartet? I'll tear him a new one if it's the last thing I do. Hold on, if he didn't do it, then why do I feel cramps all over and can't even move? Humph, morons, do you even need to ask? Who in this world has such cruel ways? Shui Qingjian was sweating and her eyes jerked in fear. The kid's back. What kid? The 4 scheming demons asked together. Then a prideful voice echoed, correct, I have returned. So listen up. Zhua Fan walked into the rundown place with fire in his eyes. The 4 scheming demons wailed, ah. A ghost. Zhua Fan's face twitched, but he took it in stride. Shui Qingjian howled and begged, Steward Zhua, the 4 little shits did it. It's not us who started it. But Zhua Fan walked right past them. Li Jingtian sighed, you guys, how can Steward Zhua not know that the 4 demons are behind it all? But you two should never ever think about using life and death art here. Are you planning on wiping out the Luo clan? Steward Zhua just came back and was in a rare good mood. But you. But, we were only talking about it, not meaning to use it. The old pair grew frantic and looked hurt. They now looked to see Luo Yunchang pass them. They grabbed onto their final hope, young miss. Luo Yunchang knew their intention and nodded and gave a thumbs up. No worries, leave it to me. The two were in deep pain, but felt relief. We haven't spent all that time with the young miss for nothing. She comes through for us when it matters. In the hall, Zhua Fan took the main seat and saw no one inside, not even guards. Those 6 must have scared them off. As the others came in, Zhua Fan had Captain Pang look for Yen Song. While Captain Pang ran along, Luo Yunchang pleaded the old couple's case. Zhua Fan knew they were innocent, only incited by the pygmies. Not even he could quell his rage when dealing with those freaks, not to mention others. So with another sign, the couple was released from their torment. The two came to the hall and bowed to Zhuo Fan, giving a look of gratitude to Luo Yunchang. Luo Yunchang gave Xue Qingjian a cheering gesture. Sister, we look after each other. The females in the Luo clan were few in numbers. And with Xue Qingjian often spending time with Luo Yunchang, their age may be different but the two were now practically sisters. Yan Song had heard of Yan Fu's arrival and rushed to the hall. He first bowed to Zhuo Fan, then looked with joy for Yan Fu. He soon found him. Disciple. Yan Song's mouth trembled from the overwhelming emotion. Yan Fu was stunned. He looked at him long and said, "Why, you're my master." Ah. Yan Song slipped for a second, then smiled, "Ha ha ha, of course. I took Steward Zhuo's 8th grade pill and washed away the poison, making me dozens of years younger. Handsome, aren't I? I had told you many times if it weren't for training in the rainbow cloud palm from a young age, I'd be an elegant and refined gentleman, wooing thousands of girls with a mere wink. See, I wasn't lying." The people let a giggle slip. It was their first time seeing their alchemy house elder boasting like that. Just like a certain vile steward they knew. Indeed, bad habits do rub off when standing so close. But Yan Fu shuddered and nodded, "Yes, you really are my master. Master only boasts like that with me. That's our secret, master." Yan Fu fell to Yan Song's feet. Yan Song was tearing up too. Master and disciple, finally reunited like father and son. The rest didn't disturb them. Afterward, Zhuo Fan thought Yan Fu was too young to assume a position, so he made him an assistant. As for the 4 scheming demons, Zhuo Fan threw them somewhere far off and only 3 days later was he reminded of them. He released their seal and gave them a tongue lashing. Ever since their return, under Zhuo Fan's tight supervision, the 4 were on their best behavior and Black Wind Mountain finally knew peace after 5 long and nerve-wracking years. Meanwhile, Feng Qiubai and Dugu Zhantian stepped foot in the imperial capital's palace with the Esoteric Debates Report. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.